Prior to us coming back to order, I would like to refer anybody who needs translator services to Miss Paula Valbuena in the back.
Buenas tardes, habla Paula Valbuena. Si necesita servicios de interpretación al español, por favor llame al 1805-324-7680 e ingrese el código de acceso 345-755-048 más la tecla numeral. Este es un número totalmente gratuito. Nuevamente llame al número de teléfono 1805-324-7680 e ingrese el código de acceso 345-755-048 más la tecla numeral. También puede acceder a estas instrucciones en nuestro sitio web en mcs4kids.com, dirigiéndose a la parte inferior de la página en y haciendo clic en Board Agendas para ir a la agenda de esta noche. Thank you, President West.
Thank you, Ms. Valbuena. Welcome to the Modesto City Schools 1460th regular board meeting of April 19th, 2021. The meeting is now called to order. In closed session, the board gave direction to legal counsel. We'll start with our roll call tonight. Student Representative Carranza. Thank you. Trustee Brown.
I'm present.
Thank you. Trustee Irvin.
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Maestas.
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Marks.
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Mejia.
Present.
Thank you. And Vice President Lopez.
Present.
Thank you. And President West is here. Please stand and join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. Good evening, everyone. This open session of the meeting of the Board of Trustees is being live streamed at the direction of the board. The live stream is available on the district's website, and the recordings will be available for viewing the day after the board meeting. Modesto City School board meetings have been adjusted for the public to follow state guidelines on social distancing until further notice. This action was taken in response to the Governor's Executive Order N2520 and Resolution 1920-17, delegating authority to take necessary action to protect students and staff from the spread of coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, adopted by Modesto City Schools on March 18, 2020. Regarding public comment, MCS has provided an opportunity for the public to provide comment. It is outlined on the agenda. The public has been given an opportunity to call in and leave a voicemail, send us a comment via an email address, or appear in person before the board. This practice will continue until further notice. For members of the public that are interested in commenting in the future, we welcome your comments. So we are pleased tonight for the Pledge of Allegiance to welcome a student from Orville Wright Elementary School to lead us in the flag salute. Eric Garcia is a kindergartner and an exceptional student. Eric has received several Flyers Soars awards during monthly virtual character trait assemblies. He is incredibly kind-hearted and has a funny sense of humor. Eric has a love for learning and is always excited to gain new skills. He enjoys riding his scooter and playing video games. Although Eric is early in his academics, when he graduates, he wants to become a police officer. Mm-hmm. Eric, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Please stand.
My name is Eric, and we're gonna be doing the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm in Override School, and please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Put your right hand over your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's great. Eric, you couldn't be any cuter, could you? Thank you so much for leading us in that pledge. We'll move on to A5, which is Superintendent Noguchi. Welcome and announcements.
Thank you. Thank you, President West, and good evening, and thank you to all who has joined us here this evening, either in person or online. I'm going to keep it really brief today because I know we have a very long board meeting, but I do want to highlight that I'm very excited about two particular reports that are coming forward tonight. The first one is the Equity Task Force recommendation. This is a project we've been working on literally since last August. This was quite a few meetings, quite a few folks participated both in the community and within the school district. I'm very proud of the work that was done, and so I look forward to getting approval on the recommendations, really for the purpose of knowing what the direction is for the next 2 or 3 years relative to the work around equity. The next one, which I believe many parents and students will be excited for, is the summer engagement and learning plan. We really thought outside the box as far as what we're going to be offering to our students this summer, especially around engagement. And so I want to thank all the staff and the community members who were part of those plans. And lastly, for those who may not know, Wednesday is Administrative Assistance Day. I want to publicly thank Monica and Antoinette for their continued support every day, despite my temperament sometimes. So I do want to thank them, and we will celebrate on Wednesday. But for all of you that have the opportunity to interact with anyone that's an administrative assistant, if you could give them well wishes, I think that would go far. Oftentimes they're quietly sitting there doing all the hard work while we're busy bossing them around. So again, I want to thank Antoinette and Monica for all the work that they do, not only for me, but for all your success as well. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, President West.
Thank you so much for that. And I know I'm speaking for the board members when I say we couldn't do what we do without the support that we have from Antoinette and Monica. We appreciate them very much. So we'll go on now to the Board of Education member reports, and I will just look for lights or hands. I know Trustee Brown does not have a light. So we'll go with Trustee Maestas and then Trustee Mejia.
Thank you. A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to do a couple of site visits and see our schools and our kids coming back in person. So Dr. Noguchi took me to Sonoma Elementary School. Actually, we went to Enoch's High School first, and it was great to see students on campus. It was quiet. I can tell you that it was quiet. But we got an opportunity to talk to a few students about their experiences and their enjoyment of being back on campus. We also got an opportunity to talk to cafeteria staff and other staff that are working really, really hard to make sure that all of the kids are getting the best education and opportunity being on campus as possible. So it was really nice to see the kids just interacting at the elementary school, and I'm excited when I got the text that we're combining cohorts for the high school and the junior highs. It's going to be great for those kids. And I just want to lastly say thank you to the admin and the teachers for allowing us to visit, and thank you to all the staff and all the teachers for all of the hard work. And it was very evident that they're putting in hours and hours, and so I humbly appreciate all of their work over this last year and moving into the last few weeks that we have here. So thank you again.
Thank you. Trustee Mejia.
Yes, I would like to just give a report. I attended the SB 3828 task force, and I just continue to be impressed with the amount of depth and conversation we have in among staff, looking at this, how this is going to impact our children, and an opportunity to change and enhance some equities that are going to exist. So I'm really excited and continue to be part of that team, looking at in depth of some of the things that could potentially help us over the long haul in terms of transportation for our students, and especially the most needed students. So I appreciate being part of that, and I know we have still got a long journey ahead of us, but we keep plowing to it. And thank you for the leadership of Tim Surley for leading us in that committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Irvin and then Trustee Marks.
Yes, I got a chance to go and view our curriculum over there on Reno. Look at all the wonderful curriculum we have slated for the next upcoming school year. And I was really impressed with the two teachers there, Lorena and Veronica. Really answered a lot of my questions that was there, gave me some real good insight, especially on, which I had been familiar with Read 180 myself, using it, but they really broke it down and gave me a inside view of why the committee chose one over the other, and so I really appreciate it. And then they the other curriculum, from the health science to math over there, they were able to really give me some insight into those curriculum, as well as the AP biology and some of the ones I had particular interest in. So I really appreciated their time and their effort to really explain the curriculum and why we're using those particular curriculum and how they align with the state standards and all the good stuff that goes into that. So I really appreciated it.
Thank you. Trustee Marks.
That's awesome. Wanted to let you know I attended the Budget Advisory Committee meeting, which was just not too long ago, with Mr. Zerley. And I have to say, we had a wonderful quote that came out of it. It's a golden opportunity as we're looking to the future with the COVID relief funds. And Mr. Parks said, it's a golden opportunity to rethink what we've always done. So just to rethink how we've been doing things. So I thought that was great. I know that was something that resonated with many of us. I also attended the Dr. Parker parent meeting, which is the Parents Leading Change. And they were almost back to back, those two meetings. It was great. And I have to say, Mr. Herbst helped facilitate that. And got to hear from Christina Romero with our special ed department. She answered a bunch of questions. Rachel Barkus also with alternative ed we asked her to do a presentation on some of the same information that we received in this meeting. And then also Dr. Jacqueline Forte from MJC. She's in charge of, she's a director of support services at MJC on teaching health and wellness. So it was a great meeting. It was about an hour long. A lot of good information and answering many questions that were brought up and it was recorded so we can share it with other parents that are interested. I also met with Senator Eggman. Sorry, I had to remember she is Senator or Assembly person. Senator Eggman, and had a great opportunity to share with her on the state budget. She wanted to meet with the board members actually because she had heard some information at a meeting before from her staff, and so she actually rearranged her whole schedule so we could meet with her. So that was really cool. We shared with her some of the legislation that's coming down that we were concerned about, and support. One that we were in support of was on broadband access. So there's quite a few bills from Assembly and Senate that, but we landed on Senate Bill 4 that we support. And then also labor issues with AB 388 and AB 438 that CSBA and many were opposing. So we had some discussions about that and talked about, what we'd like to see happen. And I had a personal story from a teacher that had contacted me, and if we had more time to be able to ensure that our teachers, we could vet them, they could stay. And so the goal is that the process is too fast and we don't get a chance to actually help help some of those teachers, then we don't want to see them move on, but sometimes the principal has to make that decision. So we asked to please oppose that bill to make the time shorter. And then I attended the Project Hope with Trustee Lopez also was there. It was my first meeting with Perfecto at the King Kennedy Collaborative. I can't remember, they changed the name of it and it's hard for me to remember. But lots of good things. So they came up with 5 things or 6 things that they want to see. What does West Modesto support and how can we communicate that and how can we help the community on the west side? So they talked about job growth, food access, housing and transportation, public safety, and public health. So what can we do as a school district to be able to work with them? So that was a really beneficial meeting. And then lastly, I attended the CalSSD it was a report on Beyond the White Picket Fence on suburban schools, and our own Dr. Noguchi was one of the presenters on the panel. So they had, I think, 4 superintendents and a facilitator was a school board member from Southern California. So it was really a great meeting, and I appreciated all that you shared, Dr. Noguchi, and a lot of other districts agreed with what we were doing in our district, and so thank you. But it was called Beyond the White Picket Fence because it's your idea of what suburban schools look like are the white picket fence, all a certain culture, living in a certain kind of neighborhood. And when you looked at the graphs, they're all over the place, and from like 1% free and reduced lunch all the way up to 99 or 100% free and reduced lunch. So it was just the whole gamut in California and they're actually defined by the state. So it was a really good report that was put out, and then just to be able to understand better what are we facing as suburban districts and not just rural districts or urban districts or town districts. So they broke them up into 4 different districts. So that was helpful. So thank you very much. Sorry for the long report, but that was a busy month.
Thank you. You've been busy.
Yes.
See none other hands. I also attended the budget advisory meeting.
Oh, that's right. I'm
with
so
Trustee
sorry.
Marks. Yes. I also was able to watch the Eddies, which were broadcast on April 1st, and I think we're going to hear some more about that tonight. And it was just really heartwarming to see these children receiving awards, well deserved. I was able to also watch some of the videos on our website, or I think it was in one of the communications that we received. Several of our school sites have done videos. They were so entertaining. I loved watching the videos, short video clips from each of the school sites. They were all different. I think my favorite ones, I really enjoyed watching the dancing that went on from Bret Hart. They did a fabulous line dance. And Garrison also had a really fun dance that was, it was just nice to watch. Nice to watch people having fun these days. So I think we're going to go ahead and move on. Speaking of, was there anyone else? No? So speaking of recognitions, Ms. Noonan, would you like to take over, please?
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Board President West and Board Trustees. It's always a pleasure to conduct the recognitions, and I do want to thank you, Board President, for calling those videos out. I want to commend the site administrators. They have a lot on their plates, and when they take time or even empower their staff to be able to do those videos, it just shows their commitment to wanting to both celebrate their sites, but also to spread the great word about all the great things that are happening. And I agree, they were definitely some really great videos. So you can see all of those on our social media sites. We've posted everything on there, so you can see them. So tonight we are going to celebrate our recognitions. And first up, we will celebrate a student with outstanding character. Tonight we are celebrating Mark Twain Junior High School 8th grader Samuel Penaloza Mendez for the character trait of courage. Nominated by Principal Monica Lombardo and School Counselor Yolanda Molina, who shared, Samuel has served as a student participant on the Student Advisory Council this year, and he has taken his position very seriously. He is always willing to share his experiences and speak up for fellow students. Samuel's questions, advice, and input have been extremely helpful and insightful. By having the courage to speak up, Samuel has assisted in improving the educational experiences for many students. So congratulations, Samuel. All right, next up we are celebrating our MCS hero, and tonight we are recognizing career technical education teacher Brad Cornwell. Nominated by CTE teacher, CTE stands for Career Technical Education, nominated by CTE teacher Amy Pezzoni, who shared, Brad joined Enox this year, of all the years, to help establish and grow the software and systems development pathway. While COVID has us all knocked back and scrambling, he expertly created and taught an amazing cybersecurity course to launch a cybersecurity pathway and continue the work building the Exploring Computer Science course, which is also new to him. 2 new courses in a, air quotes, normal school year is tough enough, but Brad didn't stop there. He helped make sure all the courses were A through G compliant, articulated with MJC, which is Modesto Junior College, and created professional audiovisual materials, flyers, and posters. So congratulations, Mr. Cornwell. And next up, as President West mentioned, so this is actually not the Eddies, this is Every Student Succeeding, but some of these students who were recognized through Every Student Succeeding also were recognized through the Eddies, so that may be why their names are familiar. So tonight's special recognition, it's really about recognizing the 11 students total from the district who were nominated for the Every Student Succeeding program. This program is actually put on through the Association of California School Administrators, otherwise known as ACSA, and the Stanislaus County County Office of Education. This program honors students who have overcome serious challenges and succeeded beyond expectations, or they've just won people's hearts. Modesto City Schools, as a district, we are only able to nominate 4 students to the county level, but we did receive 11 nominations total from various sites. And just, you'll see in just a moment, one of our students, Modesto High School senior Trinity Prado, was actually selected out of the county nominations, so at the county level, and she will represent Modesto City Schools and Stanislaus County at the state level awards program, which is a huge accomplishment. So let me go through and you'll see their photos. So the nominees are Brian Raygoza. Brian's a kindergartner from Shackelford Elementary School. Next we have Kimora Freeman. Kimora is in 2nd grade at Orville Wright Elementary School. Devin Bisson, a 3rd grader from Burbank Elementary School. And I should mention too, going back to Kimora, she was also advanced to the county level. Next we have Jonathan Suarez, a 3rd grader from Tuolumne Elementary School. Jacqueline McCran, a 4th grade from Bret Hart Elementary. Janice Zamora, 5th grade from John Muir Elementary. Maria Montesio Ramirez, she's in 8th grade at Mark Twain Junior High, and she was also advanced to the county level. We have Nan Doan, a 12th grader from Grace Davis High School. We have Shane Gorn Monroe, 12th grader from Grigori High School. Trinity Prado, again, as I mentioned, a 12th grader from Modesto High School, and again, you can see she was selected to advance to the state level. And then V. Chow, she's a 12th grader from Enox High School. And that is all of the nominees and for the Every Student Succeeding program, but I really do want to take a moment to recognize all that they've done. And as you can see, we had character education trophies produced for each one of them, and the character education that they were recognized for was perseverance. So we definitely want to commend them, and I appreciate the time tonight to do that. So congratulations, everyone. And that completes tonight's recognitions.
Thank you, Ms. Noonan. It's always a joy to celebrate our students' success. We're moving on now to A8, which is our approval of consent agenda. And I believe before we start, Ms. Chambers, are there any members of the public who wish to speak on an item on the consent agenda? None. Ms. Noonan, were there any comments from the public via email or voicemail on the consent agenda?
No, not on consent agenda.
And I believe we had 2 items that were going to be pulled. Is that correct? Trustee Marks?
Yes, I asked to have 2 pulled so I could vote no on them. One is the second reading on D4 of Board Policy 5128, and then D5, the approval of the revision for AR 5128.
And where would you like this placed?
You can put them right after, what is the last one we have on the agenda? I think it's fine just to go to the end. Is it B7 or B8? I think mine was printed before something was taken off. Or the one that, let's see, wait, no, it's not B8. Hold on.
You want them after the last item, after B10?
Yes, that's great.
Okay, so that will be, we will move D4 and D5
Okay.
and D5 to after B10, so it will become B11. So pulling those 2 items, D4 and D5, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda without those 2 items?
I'll second.
So trustee Kia and seconded by trustee Marks. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. We'll move on to item A9, which is approval of the order of discussion items. And so again, I'm missing D4 and D5. Do we have a motion to approve the order of the discussion items? Trustee Mejia, and seconded by Trustee Maestas, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I do
know.
try to combine your
do
names.
too,
I
I do too.
apologize. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. We're moving on now to A10, which is our period for public presentations. Ms. Chambers, are there any members of the public here wishing to speak? Okay, so please come to the podium and address the board. Thank you. Would you please state your name for our record, please?
Yes, my name is Emma Garber.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'm Emma Garber. I've been a leadership student at Enox for 4 years and a committee director for 2. I'm one of the top 10 speech and debate competitors at Enox, and I was awarded Best Mock Trial Defense Witness. I have a leadership role in multiple clubs, including Model United Nations, so I really understand the high school experiences of students from different walks of life. One part of high school I haven't had the privilege to understand is prom. In fact, I've never done more than check coats at a school dance. I know that I personally can't handle the sensory demands of a large enclosed room with loud music. We can take a step forward to increasing the inclusivity of prom this year by holding a safe, outdoor event. By having an outdoor senior prom, students and staff will be able to make the best of a difficult year, and every student who is comfortable with any level of social interaction will be able to participate in this celebration. I feel very safe at school with the safety measures that have been put forth by the Board of Health that are being supported by MCS. I am confident that MCS will be able to further its goal in becoming a destination district by providing a safe and inclusive prom experience to the class of 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you. We have a second speaker tonight. Please state your name for the record.
Avery Cloward.
Thank you, Avery.
Hello, my name is Avery Cloward, and I'm senior class president at Downey High School. And today I am dressed in a very long prom dress, and so is a lot of my friends outside and a couple of other schools, I believe. And we're asking to have a safe and just our last big event before we all leave and go into adulthood. And I know that the CDC says that under 200 people max, and if we all have tables and if we're all wearing masks, then it would be a lot better than school is. Because I know right now we all have one lunch and we're all in the quad and we're all just everyone has their masks off, and it feels like prom would be a lot more safer than that, especially if it's all seniors. And I am going to be fully vaccinated on Saturday, and most of my friends are already fully vaccinated. And I think that if we all show either a negative test or a vaccination card, then it would be more than plausible to have a prom. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Avery. Ms. Noonan, were there any comments from the public via email or voicemail for public presentation?
Yes, I have 17 comments to read total, so I will go through them one by one at this time.
Thank you.
The first comment we have from Katie Bazzini. The topic is prom. The comment is as follows. There needs to be a prom for the seniors this year. At this time, everyone age 16 plus can get a vaccine, and if we were to have a prom in May, that would be plenty of time. The county has said prom is allowed as long as the tables are assigned seating and it is outdoors. Those who do not have a vaccine are required to get a test on their own. Let's make something happen for seniors, given they missed out on both junior and senior year. Thank you. The next comment is from Fiona McInnes Messammer. She's a senior at Thomas Downey High School. The topic is prom. Dear MCS, my name is Fiona McInnes Messammer, and I am a senior at Thomas Downey High School. This past year has been awful for all of us, but as a senior, I, along with my classmates, have lost some of the best moments of high school due to the pandemic. I am politely asking that you listen to the student body and parents to do everything in your power to give us a senior prom. A prom that adheres to the state and county guidelines. State and county guidelines which would allow for a prom with assigned tables up to 200 people outside with a COVID vaccine or test. I'm hoping that you treat this senior class as if they are your own children who lost some of the most valuable moments of their childhood. Excuse me. The next comment is from Davina Cipriano. She's a parent of a senior at Downey High School. Topic is prom. Hello, MCS School Board. I'm a parent of a senior at Downey High School, and I am sending this in support of having a prom at Downey. As a senior, my daughter has missed out on pretty much every function a senior year would have in store. There have been no highlights to what should have been an amazing senior year, but she has taken this all in stride. I am encouraging you to allow Downey to have a prom. As we can see, with masks and safety protocols in place, the students are safe. All students will be back on campus 4 days a week in the near future. I see no problem with the seniors having a prom. Having Downey put on a prom would be much safer than a parent or student planned event. With a parent or student planned event, there would most likely be no safety protocols nor any rules enforced of any kind. It is my understanding that the county and state both allow gatherings such as this would be. Please allow the students to have some semblance of normalcy as their senior year comes to an end. I know it would mean the world to them. Thank you. The next comment is from Jenna Pla, a senior at Thomas Downey High School. The topic is prom. Dear MCS, my name is Jenna Pla and I am a senior at Thomas Downey High School. I am asking that you listen to the student body and parents and give us a senior prom. State and county guidelines allow for a prom with assigned tables up to 200 people outside with a COVID vaccine or test. This is very doable and I hope that you will make it happen. Thank you for your time. The next comment is from Elsa Justberg, a senior at Thomas Downey High School. The topic is prom. I have spent my senior year strictly following COVID safety regulations and actively participating in distance learning. I have accepted the fact that I will not have many of the activities I looked forward to in my senior year, such as homecoming, rallies, a dance show with a live audience, Disneyland trip, or sober grad cruise. We have one more opportunity that is now about to slip away too, prom. Our state and county guidelines allow for a prom with up to 200 people if they are COVID tested or vaccinated. I, like most of my friends, are fully vaccinated. If prom is not allowed by the school, it is more likely that unofficial proms will happen, which will involve less COVID safety and increase the likelihood of illicit activities. All that I'm asking is that MCS is not more restrictive than the guidelines call for. The next comment is from Ellen Roney, I hope I said her name correctly, a parent of a high school senior. The topic is prom. My daughter is a senior in high school and has loved school her entire life. The academics, clubs, sports, and all of the activities. In fact, she wants to become a teacher herself. I'm writing to the school board for the first time to ask you to consider a safe prom for the seniors. These kids have missed out on all of the senior activities, as well as the junior events last spring. They have never had the chance to go to prom. Other schools in the region are having senior proms and following CDC guidelines to do so. Athletes have been able to practice and have sporting events safely. Students will be returning to in-person classes 4 days a week. Senior prom can easily be done safely in an outdoor setting, wearing masks and social distancing. Students can be tested beforehand, just as the athletes are right now. Most of the seniors have been vaccinated or will be in the next couple of weeks. If you truly believe that, in quotes, every student matters, every moment counts, then you will make sure that the seniors have this moment, a positive memory to a very difficult year. Thank you, Ellen Roney. Next comment is from Sue Cloward, a grandparent of a senior at Thomas Downey High School. The topic is prom, and this was submitted via voicemail, I should say. My husband and I have a granddaughter who's a senior at Downey, and we want you to know that we're in favor of them having their senior prom. It's tradition. They should be able to have it. There's money in the fund. The sports departments had their sports this year with different games. It's been a stressful year for everyone, and if the seniors could please have their senior prom, it would be something positive for them to remember after they graduate. Thank you so much for listening. The next comment is from Rosemary Dialing. She is a student. The topic is prom. Seniors have not been able to have any of the activities that seniors normally get to do. If there is one thing we get to do this year, let it be prom. With proper precautions, we can have a safe and fun prom. The next comment is from Colin Flanders. The topic is prom. I am emailing today to say that I would like for Thomas Downey High School, as well as the other schools in the district, to have a prom. It is possible for us to have a safe, responsible prom, and I believe that this year's seniors deserve one. Thank you for your consideration. The next comment is, there was no name submitted, but this person is a senior at Modesto High School. The topic is prom. Good afternoon. I am a senior at Modesto High School, and I think it's monumental to have a prom. With so much taken away already, such as homecomings, formals, and senior sunrise, I think it is important to have a prom, and now having the slightest chance that we should be able to adjust. I know COVID guidelines are important, and even having just the seniors from that school going would still be appreciated. Being part of the class of 2021, I know how frustrating it is being the only class that would never get a prom due to it being canceled our junior year and possibly senior year. Especially with sports happening, if people can play football and other contact sports, we should be able to have a prom. Showing vaccination records or a negative test while following COVID guidelines would be sufficient. I know whatever decision the board makes will be with the students' best interest in mind. With that being said, I am optimistic about having a prom. Thank you. The next comment is from Kelly Gregerson. The topic is also prom. The students of Downey have been requesting approval for a senior-only prom based on Dr. V's guidelines for proms. This is the only opportunity for them to attend a prom since last year's was canceled. The event would be held outdoors with 200 students with proof of vaccination or testing and based on the following: proof of vaccine. Currently, a large number of students are vaccinated. Many of the students fell under Phase 1B, Tier 1, along with educators, as they work in food service and childcare. The remaining received theirs beginning April 1st. The next item she indicates is COVID testing. Students that are part of contact sports, i.e. football, water polo, etc., are already being tested on a weekly basis. This can be expanded to those who are not already vaccinated or being tested, or local pharmacies provide free testing. The next item is safety. Currently, MCS high school students are scheduled with one lunch. This means all students attending are eating together daily. This number far exceeds the request of 200 students together, masked for a dance. The next item is inequity. Students who would be left out if the MCS did not authorize a prom. These are the students whose parents can't afford to host a large gathering of friends. They deserve this experience too. The next item is consistency. What they are proposing is consistent with what is currently approved for lunch, sports, and other student-related activities. Thank you, Kelly Gregerson. The next comment is from Haley Sullivan. She is a student. Topic is prom. Dear MCS Board of Education, if the schools in Modesto hosted proms this year, it would be a lot safer than if they canceled prom. I am a high school senior, and I have already heard of many different people who are hosting their own proms at their houses with very large groups of people. I don't blame them for wanting to host their own proms because prom is such an important event to all seniors. However, at these, in quotes, proms, these high schoolers are not going to make their friends wear masks, social distance, be outside, etc. They are not going to have any restrictions. I would like to think that these high schoolers would care a lot about having restrictions to prevent COVID-19, but you all know as well as I do, it is ignorant to believe that. This means if all the schools in Modesto cancel their proms, there are going to be many COVID parties this year. There is no telling how many high schoolers will get coronavirus with these self-hosted proms. But there is a way to prevent this. If Modesto City Schools decides to have official proms, they can ensure that they are as safe as possible. They can require students to wear masks, sit at assigned tables, be outside, have packaged foods, have cleaning supplies at the tables, etc. In conclusion, seniors would greatly appreciate a safe prom this year, and your decision to have prom would protect the safety and health of MCS students. The next comment is from Kelly Marin Rodriguez, a senior. The topic is prom. Dear Board of Education, as we know, COVID-19 took the world by surprise in April of 2020, and this caused many schools to shut down and many events were canceled. This included junior prom for us. As a high school student, prom was the event of the century. Everyone wanted to attend, but waited their turn. Unfortunately, ours got canceled due to COVID-19, but we remained optimistic. We were hopeful about the next year, meaning 2021, and it has been a hectic year with so many limits and disappointments. But with your help, we can still have a wonderful event. We can do so by having a safe distance of 6 feet and wearing masks. There could be hand sanitizer and other equipment for us to use to be safe. I recommend the event to take place in an outdoor facility, allowing us to easily adapt to the 6 feet apart requirement. Thank you for your time. The next comment is from Jimena Mojica Camarena, the senior student. The topic is prom. This is a very brief comment. Hello, I would suggest that if we have a prom, it should be seniors only. Thank you. The next comment is from Maddie Van Diepen, a junior at Downey High School. The topic is senior prom. Hi, my name is Maddie Van Diepen, and I am a junior at Downey High School. I wanted to email to provide my opinion on having a safe prom for our seniors. I've spoken to Mrs. Contreras about this very subject, and we came up with good ideas to help make this happen for the seniors. For example, we can do rapid tests, like we were doing for sports, and provide them for every Modesto City school. Like I said, I am a junior and I would love to have a prom, but I am willing to give that up to make it happen for the seniors. Please note that our seniors have had to give a lot up this year, and the least we can do is have a small safe prom and in-person graduation for them. Thank you for listening. The next comment is from Dimitri Stamos, a senior at Downey High School. The topic is prom. Hello, I am Dimitri Stamos, a senior at Downey High School, and I believe we should have a prom. Thank you for your time and consideration. The last comment is from Ryan Foy. Ryan is a parent of an Enslin Elementary student, and the topic is extending reopening of schools to 5 days this year. The comment is as follows. My son attends kindergarten at Enslin. While we are grateful that intentions have been announced to open full-time and 5 days a week next fall, it is so far unclear why there are no publicly acknowledged steps being taken to increase the amount of time our kids are in school now through the end of this current school year. There has been no communicated benefit or reason why MCS schools are still at reduced hours daily and why Wednesdays are distance learning days. Initially, Wednesdays were pitched as a reset day for teachers to ready the classrooms and themselves for alternating cohorts. But now that the cohorts have merged, it is unclear why we are not in school 5 days a week. Please let our kids have a full school schedule for this last month of the school year. Is it a budget issue, a contract issue, or a safety issue? And no matter the issue at hand, can we resolve it and get back to a full schedule? Thank you for your time and consideration, Ryan Foy. And that concludes the comments that were submitted.
Thank you, Ms. Noonan. And I've been alerted that we have one more live speaker, Ms. Chambers, is that correct? Thank you. Thank you, and please state your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Valerie Sutter, and I am a leadership teacher, an English teacher at Thomas Downey High School, Modesto. There are so often opportunities for young people to take a stand for what they believe, and they believe so passionately about it. And as their leadership teacher, cheer coordinator, Renaissance coordinator, and many other hats I hold, I often have to say, but remember, you are still in high school, and there are adults who really need to make this decision for us, and so let's respect their decision. I appreciate and value that my young people are choosing to be respectful and have come to you in an appropriate fashion and not rioting, even though they're extremely passionate about this. I wanted to just go on record as their teacher to say I am supporting them. I understand their desire. I understand their passion. And as future leaders of Modesto and the greater community and maybe world travelers, I know that this is very important to them. We have taught them that collaboration and connection and relationship build campus climate and culture. This is their culture, and they need a good ending, an exclamation mark, not a period. That concludes my English teacher side in me, and I just appreciate that you're making wise decisions for our young people who are growing now into adults, and I ask that you would consider the request. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Sutter. I appreciate the comments that we've heard tonight. We will move on now to item B1, and this is our student representative report. Carson Carranza.
All right, hello everyone. The Inter-High Council and I met last Tuesday. We have also finished filming the majority of our acts for the Tournament of Talent. Downey has worked with us to set a date for April 26th to finish filming for the Tournament of Talent and plans to have the video ready to be posted on May 5th. On Sunday, applications were due for next year's Student Board Representative, and I'm really looking forward to see who will be stepping up to represent Modesto City Schools and the Inter-High Council from the student perspective for the 2021 to 2022 school year. For our school updates, we discussed how the school sites are helping freshmen and other students make the transition back to in-person learning. At Bayer, ambassadors have helped freshmen get around campus and find their classes during the first week of school. Enox and Grigori did something similar, where upperclassmen answered questions for students and helped them find their classes. Modesto High School created a program called Lunch Bunch, where staff, teachers, and students sit with freshmen and underclassmen at lunch who simply want to hang out or have no one else to sit with, as they have not had the opportunity to make friends in person. Downey split up freshmen into groups, and upperclassmen led them around and helped them find their classes as they got comfortable with in-person. And lastly, Davis gave freshmen organized tours of campus and had specific mentors for groups of freshmen. At our last meeting, we also were able to discuss how we can better support the social, emotional, and academic growth of students. And we discussed two questions, one about improvements for a normal school year and the other for how to engage more students in the classroom. Rana from Modesto High School emphasized the need to publicize the resources already available to students and suggested we implement Senate Bill 14 into Modesto City Schools, which would allow excused absences for mental illness. Michael from Enoch suggests workshops for parents who can help recognize mental health crises in their own homes, as that's where they often start. Seth then from Downey High School had mentioned that many teachers have implemented Wellness Wednesdays to allow students to talk about mental health in class. He and other students believe that a break from academics to discuss how people are feeling is very beneficial for social, emotional, and academic growth. Specific for the remainder of this school year, Ava from Bayer recommends that Wednesday be used as a catch-up day, as it's very hard to learn and pick up new material in a 25-minute time period. The time would be better spent working and getting caught up on school assignments. Emily from Grigori suggests that students work with the counseling department to have conversations with students, as many students are more comfortable talking with a peer rather than an adult. Moving on, I would like to highlight an item from our consent agenda, item D6, approval of Modesto City Schools' pathway to the State Seal of Civic Engagement. Mrs. Newton and Mrs. Zambo came to our inter-high meeting to discuss the State Seal, and they've worked very hard with Cabinet to make it available for the class of 2021 at a super short notice. Applications are going to be available tomorrow, April 20th, so students in the class of 2021 have the opportunity to receive their State Seal and showcase the work they've done in Modesto City Schools during their high school experience. And lastly, I want to thank all the students who came to express their desire to have a senior prom, and I want to reiterate and add to some of the points that many of them made. There's testing that's occurring every week, and it's starting to ramp up and occur every day of contact sport games, which would make it much easier for students to have proof of COVID negative test results. Also, vaccinations have been open to all students who are aged for seniors in high school, so they could end up getting their vaccine likely before a prom will be held, or at least the first dose. Another point that I would like to make is, and I don't want to take away from the last year senior experience, but I wanted to mention that the community response last year for the seniors in the class of 2020, as COVID was just starting, was much different from the class of 2021. It's been a year and we've already started to get used to COVID in a way, and I would say that makes it a little bit more difficult for the class of 21 in order to get some of the benefits of being a senior. As last year, the community was very, very quick to jump on to helping the class of 2020 have their senior experiences and giving them extra incentives in the community. And I just wanted to mention the difference between the class of 2020 and the class of 2021. And lastly, the planning for prom is typically done by students, but I recognize that it would require much more staff participation because of COVID and safety procedures. But the students, as we've seen today, are incredibly willing to participate in the organization of prom and getting the logistics worked out to make it possible to have seniors have their final prom experience. Thank you all for listening to my update, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Carson. Do we have any questions? We appreciate your comments very much and your input, so thank you so much for that. We'll move on to B2 now, and this is the California School Employee Association report. Do we have a report from CSEA this evening?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Thank you. Item B3 is the report and approval of Equity and Racial Justice Task Force recommendations, and this will be, I believe, Mr. Herbst.
It will be. Hold on, let me get that PowerPoint set up, and I'll get started in just a sec.
Right.
All right. Good evening, Board President West, trustees, Superintendent Noguchi, cabinet colleagues, and guests. Tonight, honestly, I am completely thrilled to be presenting on the work completed by our Equity and Racial Justice Task Force. And I'm also going to be seeking your approval, not only for the recommendations, the 6 that they came up with, but also with a recommended MCS equity statement. So it's also another one of their recommendations that came through the task force. Tonight, I'm going to address just kind of briefly the purpose and what led to the work that we've been engaged in surrounding equity. I also want to talk specifically about the role of the task force and their purpose. And then, as I mentioned before, going to seek that approval on the task force recommendations and proposed equity statements. After that, I'll discuss next steps and address any concerns that the board may have. Equity work is found honestly throughout our district goals, and I'm going to highlight a couple of them even then, but I at least want to start with the one where it resonates probably the most, and that's goal number 1. And that centers around increasing academic achievement and ensuring equitable access to all students to attain that college and career readiness. But to be honest with you, from a connectedness standpoint, if you look at equity from a different lens, inclusion has its root in equity. Equitable hiring practices is equitable. What the decisions we make budgetarily are equity in essence. So it's really tied into all of our district goals. Just to kind of put in a little bit of some equity background, Modesto City Schools has engaged in work surrounding equity and indeed has made progress in a number of areas. And we've shared that publicly with the board. We've made progress with suspension. We've made progress on graduation rates. But we would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the social unrest that has occurred in our nation and in our community. Additionally, there are still inequities throughout the society, which is obvious, but also within our district. This includes inequities based on gender, ethnicity, and disability status, and that's just to name a few. As a result, and under direction of our superintendent, we created the Equity and Racial Justice Task Force, or actually framework. This framework, adopted by our board, includes specific actions that the district has engaged in at all levels, including those specific to the district, community, site, and student levels. Hopefully you have a chance and you can see that visual. This slide indicates a visual of the framework. Here you're going to see the numerous actions placed under the district and community, as well as the site-based work that we've engaged in. Finally, on the bottom left, you can see the student actions and the student work that we've been engaged with. I will tell you that the work has been very comprehensive. The Equity and Racial Justice Task Force is one very important piece of a comprehensive Modesto City Schools equity plan. And this visual helps to illustrate the enormity of the work. Excuse me. The next slide, I want to highlight, that includes all the members of the task force. So I want to say, you'll notice right there that we have 3 of our very own board members who participated, which was great. We had district and site administration, teachers, a school psychologist, and 10 community members and 2 students. I'd like to take the moment to thank all the individuals on this slide for their work on the task force. It is truly greatly appreciated. The task force purpose was to provide recommendations to our superintendent and the board regarding future work surrounding equity in Modesto City Schools. Basically, the task force was made aware of the work being completed through the framework, but their job was to really, as Dr. Noguchi said in the beginning, to target specific areas that the district is going to focus on for our future equity work, for the work basically to come. The next slide includes our meeting dates. You're going to notice that basically we met once a month, and this was done strategically. We realized we wanted the recommendations completed early enough for us to ensure that we could make any budgetary moves prior to the end of the school year. Each meeting was an hour and a half in length, and I will tell you, to be honest with you, we used every single minute of it of all 6 of the meetings. I mean, it really, really was slammed to the hilt with the information and getting their input. I wanted to provide the board with kind of the topics and the overview. The first 2 were really kind of getting to know you type meetings. We did learn something which has been shared with our Board of Education regarding the introduction to the RIR protocol. That protocol teaches individuals how to properly respond when they hear comments and come across situations where they believe bias or inequities exist. RIR stands for Recognize, Interrupt, and Repair, and the RIR protocol is based on maintaining relationships even in situations to where you may hear somebody make a comment that may be deemed appropriate. So one of those situations, but very, very valuable to have. We also shared the difference between what equity and equality is, and oftentimes those get confused, but that was a very, very important distinction for our group. We also spent time developing an equity statement for our district. And finally, the task force looked at a number of data sources that demonstrated some of the inequities that do exist within our district. They then attempted to determine the root cause. And once all that was completed, we took all of their potential recommendations and whittled it down to the 6 I'm going to share tonight. The first recommendation was to increase teacher diversity, where we definitely have a strong Caucasian teaching force within Modesto City Schools, and that doesn't necessarily match the demographics found within our district. The second recommendation is analyzing teacher placement, and that was really looking at it under two different lenses. One, the teacher to student ratio at school sites in terms of ethnicity, but also an analysis of where we place our veteran experienced teachers and where they are in relation to some of our highest needs schools. The third recommendation was to improve communications with parents of color. There is no doubt that the community had a strong feeling that communication from the district and the site to individuals of color was lacking and in need of communication. In a similar vein, the next recommendation was to develop trust through improved customer service. This is something that the district continues to work on, but can still obviously make improvements in this area. The fifth recommendation is to analyze our grading policies and course offerings. The task force spoke loud and clear about the need for equity and how we grade our students. Additionally, there was a strong recommendation for the district to develop ethnic studies throughout the grade spans, including course offerings at the high school. Finally, the last recommendation was to conduct ongoing and regular equity audits. And this is really to look and analyze where our marginalized subgroups are performing. So I wanted to give some examples. These audits would be completed in areas such as achievement and grading, our access to GATE, our Gifted and Talented program, access to A to G, AP and IB, and CTE. Additionally, we would continue to review discipline and attendance as part of the equity work. Okay, so the last slide may be a little bit difficult for you guys to see, but I believe we do have a copy of the proposed MCS equity statement. And I'll be honest with you, it was a labor of love. We had 35 people in that room, and it took a lot of wordsmithing to get where we got. But I'm going to read that to you if you don't mind. So let me take a sip of water. It says, Modesto City Schools must provide equitable access by actively eradicating structural and institutional racism and systemic inequities to close achievement, opportunity, and access gaps that exist within our district. We are committed to understanding the individual circumstances and needs of our students, their families, and our staff. We will serve in a way to create equitable outcomes and ensure respectful environments that embrace and empower each individual, recognizing that diversity and inclusion of every gender, race, religion, socioeconomic status, physical appearance, gender expression, family configuration, disability, and ethnicity leads to a thriving and just community. MCS is ultimately responsible for the success of our students and will be held accountable to the community. And that, again, took about 2 meetings to get there, but I believe that there's a lot of power behind that statement, albeit long, but a lot of wordsmithing went into that for the board's consideration. I am absolutely thrilled. One of the individuals that I had an opportunity to work closely with and still work closely with is a lady that I know you guys all know, and that's Wendy Bird. Wendy Bird is the local chapter president of the NAACP, and she's going to come and share her experiences on the task force. So I believe we have Wendy out in the foyer. Actually, she's right behind me.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for giving me a moment to speak. I was one of 10 of the community members that participated on the task force, and I really appreciated the opportunity to do that. I think that those of us from the community were able to bring in a lot of different ideas and different perspectives that perhaps others may not have seen. And so we together, all 35 of us, sat down and we went through a lot of different exercises. And just like I hope that you'll accept the 6 recommendations and our equity statement, I want to throw a plug in for the students. I hope that you'll accept the prom that they can go to as well. Our recommendations hit several different points related to diversity, teaching, grades, audits, communications, and trust. And you know, when you look at really what's going on in the world today, I think it's so important that we teach people how to get along. Because it doesn't matter how many A's and B's you can get in a classroom. If you can't get along with your classmates, you're still not going to go anywhere. And so I think that we have to really focus more on helping different cultures understand each other, not just today, but their history, the culture, the different norms and things like that. And that's why I'm really happy that ethnic studies was one of those recommendations. And so, again, you know, developing the trust. And I think that the 6 recommendations represent a well balance of what we all felt was a good mix. And I'd like to thank Mark Herbst and also Superintendent Noguchi for their steady leadership in helping to put this all together. They were very resourceful. Everyone made sure that we had any type of work product that we needed. And so it was just a really wonderful experience, and it demonstrates and shows how we all can work together as partners and not as enemies. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bird. Appreciate you taking the time to come down there and share those kind remarks. Truly do. Thank you very much. So with that, in terms of next steps, I'm going to seek approval for the task force's recommendation and proposed equity statement. From there, what we're going to do is we're going to take those 6 goals and we're going to identify the district leads, the person who's going to be responsible. And from there, we'll look to bring out the form stakeholders groups if necessary, but really develop the metrics to be able to show and demonstrate success. We also see a need to continue to obviously provide information to our stakeholders. So that's going to come not only in the form of ongoing board presentations to you guys for an update on our progress, but also we plan to maintain community forums next year on the topics surrounding equity and change the task force, which has already completed its role by providing those recommendations, but keeping in place an equity committee. And that equity committee would basically be there so that we could demonstrate that here were the 6 action-related items, assuming that you guys approve. Here are the actions that we are taking, and here's the progress we're making in each one of those individual areas. So with that, at this time, we request the board take action on the Equity and Racial Justice Task Force recommendation and their proposed equity statement. And with that, I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Herbst. We're going to start with Ms. Chambers. Do we have any comments from the public? No. Thank you. Ms. Noonan, do we have any comments to be read from the public tonight?
No, we did not receive any.
Thank you. We will then move to questions or comments from the board. And Trustee Mejia and then Trustee Irvin.
Yes, I am. I'm actually pretty excited to see the work that's been put on by this committee and by the leadership here in Modesto. And I'm stoked. I'm a ethnic studies minor, so I'm really proud, especially about that recommendation. I think I'll just share in public that was one of the things that made me prouder to pursue where I'm sitting to you right now. I didn't know anything about some of the contributions of Mexican Americans throughout the history of after 1848, and so I just think it brings pride and it highlights some of our students, and finding that, I think it's awesome. I'm really excited. My hands are sweating, so excited I am that I think some of this stuff is gonna create a lot of positive changes for our community, for our kids, and for the future. So I'm really excited. I'm ready to move once I hear all the comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Mejia. Trustee Irvin.
Yes, I just want to kind of piggyback on Trustee Mejia and commending all the work that was done. Mark and his leadership in bringing this to fruition, to get to these recommendations, and his patience and persistence and his ability to be, how how do I say that? Not get frustrated. Let's put it that way. And trying to bring that large group of people together to reach a common goal, so to speak. So appreciate that work that was put into that leadership role. Also, with the ethnic studies being a large part of that as well. We've already been moving forward in that direction as a district, thanks to our superintendent. Ethnic Studies, the State Board of Education already approved the model curriculum for ethnic studies. And although the bill was vetoed by the governor to make ethnic studies a graduation requirement, work is still being done to undo that act, so to speak. So again, I really appreciate everything that has went into getting us here with the participation of Wendy Bird and all the others from the community, and again, bringing some type of synergy to get to where we are now.
Thank you, Trustee Irvin. Trustee Lopez, Vice President Lopez, and then Trustee Marks.
It was Trustee Brown first, and then I'll go.
I'm sorry, you don't have a light. I didn't see your hand. Trustee Brown, then Lopez, then Marks.
Thank you, Trustee Lopez. So I'm very impressed with this presentation, and as Trustee Irvin mentioned, the guidance that was provided to allow this large group to work together and come up with some very well-defined direction that should guide our district for many years. And I'm extremely pleased to see that the task force is being reframed to watch over this process and make sure that we accomplish the things that they have set forth that we should do. So I'm throwing my support and very pleased to see the progress that we're making, and look forward to seeing each step as it comes to fruition.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. Trustee Vice President Lopez.
Well, thank you. I'm gonna get a tad emotional because I see in the recommendations the increase in teacher diversity and the need for ethnic studies. Right, it's very important for students to see themselves in the curriculum, to see themselves in the classroom. I know that I'm very fortunate to have two people that I saw as that I see as role models. Really shaped. I mean, one from afar, one that basically took me by his side to instill to me community organizing values, right? And now I'm very privileged to sit to the left and to the right of them. So this type of framework and this type of work goes a lot further down to our students than we can ever imagine. Because seeing a teacher that looks like them, that talks like them, and seeing themselves in curriculum is going to go a long ways to having great leadership in our community that is reflective of the people who live in it. So very proud of the work that everyone has done.
Thank you so much for that. Trustee Marks, and then Trustee Maestas.
Thank you for the comments on all of this. I was very blessed to be part of this committee and to learn some new tools, new dialogue, ways to dialogue, especially the introduction to the Recognize, Interrupt, and Repair protocol. I thought that was extremely beneficial for many in so many ways, just to be able to understand one another better, where we come from, and in a lack of understanding, so that we might be able to have a clearer understanding by recognizing something where I don't get that, and then interrupt and say, can you please explain that to me? I'm not getting it. So I thought that was really helpful. And then if we've done something where we need to repair, so asking for forgiveness, asking for a way to make it right. So I really appreciated that kind of dialogue at the beginning of the committee sessions that we had. And then I also really appreciated that in the statement, I know it was very important to many of the community members that once this committee or task force or ended, that the work would continue. I think in the past for Modesto City Schools, we have not followed through on some things, and there's a need to build trust. And I believe with the last statement on there that we'll be held accountable to the community was extremely important to many of the community members that were on the task force. So I appreciate that, and I look forward to where we go from here. I appreciate the superintendent in recognizing the need for this, for the dialogue, and to allow for different, I believe it was a very well-rounded committee. So I appreciate that, and working with my colleagues on there as well. So I am hopeful for the future and where we're headed, and look forward to seeing how it will show up in the data. So that will be really good to share that information with the committees. So thank you for all the hard work of the whole staff. It was a big job, and even coming up with the statement took us many, 2 whole meetings, 3 hours. That's a lot of time, where we broke off in sessions and groups and then came back together. So I appreciate that, and just listening to each individual to be able to be part of the statement was really important. So thank you for that. And I just thank my colleagues, Mr. Irvin and Mr. Lopez, for serving on the committee as well. It was really great to work together. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Maestas?
Thank you. I would like to say that I would like to thank the board and Dr. Noguchi and everyone that put this together before Trustee Mejia and I were on this board. Because as we came onto the school board, I heard the equity task force was already kind of going, and I was just a little bit envious of not being on that, because this has been something that I've been it's very important to well, it's just very important to me. I've been on this journey and learn more about equity and anti-racism over the past few years and through my own career. So a couple of things that I want to ask about and just kind of highlight in some of your recommendations. Grading for equity, and there's a book called Grading for Equity that pretty much changed the way that I thought about how I was preparing my own students, and even got me thinking, gosh, what have I been doing for the last 10 years, 15 years? So I don't know if that's the exact thing that you're looking at, but I love the fact that you're looking at that piece, because it is a piece that we often miss in the inequitable piece of our students and the grading that they have. With that being said, the recommendations, there are a lot of macro recommendations, structural recommendations for our district, but I wonder if there's going to be, and this is probably next steps, training on a more micro level in terms of the stuff that actually happens on a day-to-day basis. I know there are a lot of equitable practices that I've been looking at specifically from the own work that I have inside a classroom or within just a smaller area. So I don't know what your thoughts are in terms of going towards training for everyone, because I know that's a piece.
Yeah, and again, just in terms of the framework, I believe was presented prior to the 2 new board members joining. But the framework, which is the visual, has really the comprehensive plan and what we've engaged in that I think will get to the root of that. Part of what we did under Dr. Lauren Odell's direction was we added numerous professional development opportunities for our individuals on items that you're referring to in terms of how to address bias, unconscious bias, et cetera. And that's just to name a few of them, culturally responsive teaching, et cetera. So our teachers take what the task force has done here. Those pieces are still in play and are still planned to be in play next year, if I'm getting at your point.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you. I had one other question, if that's okay. Are there, and this is because I'm just unfamiliar, are there honors classes in 7-8 in junior high?
Yes, there are.
Are those added to the access in the 6th recommendation?
Yeah, we would be looking at access into the advanced courses. So yeah, that's an oversight by me by not including honors in there, but it would be GATE, honors, APIB.
Okay. Perfect. And thank you again so much for all of the hard work on this. This is going to make a huge difference in our kids' lives. And the lives and our community. Thank you.
Thank you all for your comments. As I'm listening to people speak, I'm also jealous that I wasn't on that committee. I guess we all can't be on it, but I think our hearts are there and we would like to. I also want to talk a little bit about the mission statement or your equity statement. I've worked on mission statements before, and let me tell you, it's one of the most difficult things, especially if you have that many people to try to do this. I think you did a beautiful job with the wording in here. And then the last thing I want to say is, as a board, we discuss things that are important. Always, every board meeting, it's important. This is not just important, this is imperative. And so I think this is so huge that our district is heading in this direction. And I'm so thankful that that we're all on this together as a team doing this imperative work. So thank you very much. I think we all got a little emotional about that. Let's go to some exciting summer offerings, B4. And
Too excited.
we have to vote on this, so.
Would appreciate the approval.
Sorry. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the Equity and Racial Justice Task Force. There's going to be so many hands. Trustee Irvin, I saw your hand first, and then Trustee Mejia. Seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. Hi, and say aye. Aye, aye, aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, this passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Now, we're moving on to some exciting summer offerings, and so this is Mr. Herbst again.
All right, at least a start at this time. Again, good evening, Board President West, the trustees, Superintendent Noguchi, Cabinet colleagues. This time it's going to be Dr. Lauren Odell and I who present on a report on our 2021 summer offerings and what we're planning in order to address the needs of our students over the summer months. So with that, tonight we plan to talk about the purpose of the summer programming, kind of the reason why. We're going to provide an overview of the summer offerings in our grades, TK through 12. We're going to talk about the next steps as we continue to move forward and any challenges that we have encountered or plan to encounter along the way. And from that, Lauren and I will be available for any questions that you may have. In terms of goal alignment, it's pretty obvious. I mean, summer programs is going to tie nicely back into Goal 1, which again is centering around academic achievement and equitable access for our students to attain college and career readiness. But honestly, it's going to branch out a lot more than that. There's going to be support for English learner growth within there, developing multi-tiered system of support, that tiered level of intervention for kids that are struggling, technically both academic and behaviorally, but that's embedded there. And also, as Dr. Odell is going to get into, and embedded within even the remedial offerings that we plan to offer, there's that access to enrichment, which is really, really essential considering where we're at coming out. Well, I can't say coming out of the pandemic, but where we're at in terms of what our students need as we transition more and more kids back. I would be obviously remiss if I didn't say that school closure has had a tremendous effect on everyone, but obviously more specifically our kids. And don't get me wrong, we have had some some successes. There are some students that have, for whatever reason, flourished in a distance learning environment. But I'll tell you, and I know that the board has seen this, we could pull data sources that indicate higher than usual DNF rates. There is no doubt about it that we have noticed that our students have struggled considering the pandemic, school closure, and distance learning. So we see not only the need to provide some support in deficient skills, but also come up with ways to re-engage, motivate, and excite students to come back into a classroom or into a learning session. So I'm going to kind of talk about the remedial offerings plus the enrichment piece embedded in there, and then Dr. Odell is going to go more specifically into the re-engagement piece, which is a unique type approach that she's going to share a little bit later in the presentation. Well, hopefully I didn't hit that button again. Let me at least first start talking about the elementary program. The elementary program is going to be in session from June 3rd through June 29th. So it's basically 19 instructional days at 4 hours per day. Embedded within that student's day is going to be remediation in the areas of English language arts and mathematics. The Curriculum and Instruction Division is already busy and is providing and are creating and are providing some great summer learning opportunities in those specific areas. Some stuff that's engaging, but also very, very remedial in nature in terms of addressing any of the gaps that our children may have. Additionally, within that 4 hours, we are embedding enrichment. So it will not just be remedial only. There's going to be enrichment opportunities for those individual kids to participate in to keep that interest going. And what we're allowing is flexibility in terms of the site to develop those enrichment opportunities. So it's really coming grassroots from a school site rather than some district mandate that we're going to do robotics per se. And again, that's not a slide on robotics. Some may prefer that, but it's going to be up to the strengths of the individual school site. Each school, what is unique this year, if you remember in the past, we've hosted summer school sites to where we have bused kids all over to get to those sites. And with that, capacity has been limited. This year, for the first time ever, the Modesto City Schools will host their own individual summer school site. The only exceptions to that, and there are actually very, very few, I have to give a lot of credit to Tim Zierle and Roger Orth for making some adjustments, but in an instance to where, let's say, a school is being modernized in the month of June, we will take those staff, those students, and that administrator and bus them to a neighboring site. But to be honest with you, I think that the number of schools that are going to be worked on in June is now on one hand versus what we thought initially, so we don't anticipate it being too much of a struggle. The other piece about being able to offer the site-based program is, by nature of our interest and the teachers that are interested in, we will actually reach more kids, way more kids than we have under the traditional model of busing them through. And obviously busing won't be an issue because they'll be attending their neighborhood school. Let me speak a little bit to the junior high program. Junior high program is definitely unique. It's going to be in session for the same 19 instructional days. They will remain, though, with a traditional 3.5-hour day. But they're going to have an opportunity to take basically 3 courses. And that could be 1 academic, 2 elective/enrichment, or 2 academic and 1 elective enrichment. That's going to give an opportunity, again, to address any remedial skills, but also give them an opportunity to take course in an area of interest, something that would be fun, something deemed fun over those summer months. Priority at the junior high level is going to be given to students with Fs and poor grades, but that does not necessarily eliminate a kid who passed a class to still come back in for support in some areas of gaps. So that's a little bit unique to the junior high program. Again, at the junior high level, all junior highs will be open and they will all maintain their own students. So in the past, in our summer school offerings, we have had a very, very poor junior high school showing. I would anticipate quite a few numbers just based on the fact of them hosting at their home site and the kids being able to go to their neighborhood junior high school, which is very, very helpful. Moving into the high school, high schools will also, just like the junior high, offer a 3.5-hour, 19-day program with the same dates. High school is a little bit different. We definitely have an established way for individuals to make up courses. So they will continue to use that Florida virtual to provide that credit recovery opportunity that unfortunately is still necessary, but a vital part about our students being able to make up credits at the high school level. We're still going to keep that morning and afternoon session that we've had in the past. So a child still has the ability to enroll in 2 courses for a total of 10 credits at one time, should they choose to do that. And again, in this particular case, we will be offering that summer program at each and every one of the high school sites, which is also somewhat unique. One added piece that is completely new, but you guys have been, or the board has been made aware of it, just based on some of the good work that Associate Superintendent Godot has done. We plan on offering intersessions in grades 7 through 12. So we've experienced success over winter break and summer break, and I've got to give credit to our teachers on this, but it's really allowed a number of our students to earn credits quickly. And what I mean by that is intersession is based on the fact of I have a student who received we'll say a 50% in my class. And so what they do is they work with their teachers to determine, and let's say it's in the area of mathematics. That mathematics teacher is going to cover an intersession class. Those individual kids are given the opportunity to go to that class to do the work that makes it up for a D or a C grade. So basically, it's not a whole class repeat like we would do under Florida Virtual. It's basically a rapid way of being able to get a grade that would be passing, to get the kid to be able to move on, to get the individual the credits that they need for graduation. And we have experienced success with that, again, as I'd said before, during winter session and in spring session. The hours and the times that the teachers are there is going to be determined by the site, but it will not exceed any more than 4 hours, the summer school program there, and it will not exceed anything beyond the 19 days that we have summer school in session. I would also be remiss if I did not cover the extended school year. This is a little bit unique. Extended school year is a mandate for any child who has ESY services as part of their IEP. Their dates are 1 day different. It's in session from June 3rd through June 30th, and the reason why is it's a 20-day minimum as mandated by Education Code. This time, extended school year is going to be a 6-hour program, and I'm going to explain why. In the past extended school year, and as I've mentioned in our own summer programs, the kids, general education kids, are entitled to the 4 hours that I mentioned. The reason why it's 6 hours is because ESY, again, is a mandate. So the 4 hours will be the mandatory piece that we would be offering every summer like we do. The additional 2 hours is to address any compensatory education that we as a district may owe, in part for our students with disabilities due to school closure and or remediating deficient skills due to distance learning. So that is something unique to ESY, and hence you're going to see, well, geez, why is it 6 hours? Because we're also doing compensatory ed on top of the mandate, which I think is incredibly beneficial for our kids and incredibly beneficial for our families. With that, I know that that's a lot of information, at least on the remedial program, but I'm going to have Dr. Odell take over and explain re-engagement, walk us through the challenges, and then next steps. So Dr. Odell?
Thank you, Mr. Herbst.
You want me to take the...
Go ahead and keep it. Thank you. Well, good evening, President West, trustees, Dr. Noguchi, my colleagues, and guests watching. So just as important as you've heard from Mr. Herbst, the remediation that needs to take, the credit recovery that needs to happen for our students, we also have really dug in and decided that we need to re-engage our students. Mr. Henderson and I had the opportunity to spend some time with Michael Fullen on Friday, and we talked to him about our ideas around re-engagement, and he said we are on target. That's exactly what he is a proponent of, following the needs that have occurred from the pandemic. And so what we want you to know is that the re-engagement program that we have set up will not conflict with the needs of remediation. So students actually have the opportunity to participate in both. It will be TK-12. Again, the hours will vary, but mostly it'll take place in July. Some of it will take place in the afternoon of June, but again, not conflicting with the essential needs of remediation that may need to take place TK-12. It's teacher driven by their interest, so we know that our staff is fatigued, but they said, I want to do this. I want to work with the students in this way. So that's been really exciting. It's site approved. The proposals from the teachers had to go to the administrator to make sure that it was on target and appropriate for their community. CIPD has approved every single one of it. We actually have 93 proposals in the system right now across the district, and I have personally gone through every single one of them to look for standards, metrics, objectives, etc. It's open to all. So here's a wonderful piece of this. We didn't want one school to say, well, I'm going to participate and I will do a forensic speech and debate, where another site wasn't doing something like that. So we said up front, if you offer this, you need to offer it to any student that is in that target zone, that grade zone that you're willing to teach, or that content area. So any student can participate, even if it's not from their home school, their base. And of course, the teachers will get the same pay, the same regulations that we've worked out with our union partners. All of that's the same. Next slide, please. So just to give you, again, we have 93, I just looked a few minutes ago to prepare proposals in, and some of the examples, just a touch. Robotics for English learners, for 8th graders going into 9th grade. A boot camp for AP Calc and for GATE pre-calculus class, just to give them a little extra something before we start in August. One act play for students, those that are interested in learning more about building the structure and what it takes for a one act. Reading and math club, basketball club, first grade transitions. Shackelford is very interested in getting our littlest scholars ready for first grade and doing a massive transitions plan for them. Another teacher wants to do PE running in the morning and reading in the afternoon. Another person wants to do the joy of art. So there's all kinds of really fun things going on. Again, it's not so much about remediation wherein you miss standard 4.2, so we're going to drill and kill on that. It's more about how do we teach these standards in a really joyful way, re-engage students, get them ready for the fall, get their mind back in class, and they're all in person. None of this is going to be virtual. All the students will be present. Next slide. We do have some challenges. Our folks are tired, we know that. So although we'd love to have many more opportunities, we know some folks really just need a break. They need to take some time for themselves, for their wellness. So we're still working on our workforce. We know students are fatigued too, so we need to make sure that we can get them involved and wanting to come back for these opportunities. We do have, as Mr. Herb said, we do have some school improvements going on, so we have to work around those. Administrative coverage, our admin are tired too, right? It's been a long year. So we do have great folks that have said, yes, I'll participate, I'll volunteer. And where we have some gaps, we have some plans to fill in for those folks during those times. And of course, we need classified coverage too to support with us. So those are some of the challenges we're working through to ensure that we have a smooth sailing, excellent program this summer. Next steps, please. We're finalizing teacher interest to determine staffing for each one of these programs, the remediation, the re-engagement, etc. We're determining overflow at site locations. Again, some sites may not have every room available because of the modifications and refurbishings. And again, we're working to support site admin and offering the best summer programs that our students can have and giving equity and access to all of these programs to all of our students. So at this time, Mr. Herbst and I are very happy to entertain your questions and comments and concerns you may have about summer programs this 2021.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to start. I see hands and lights, but I'm going to start by asking Ms. Chambers if we have any member of the public who has a comment. Ms. Noonan, do we have any comments to be read from the public on this topic?
We did not receive any.
All right, well, we're going to go with questions and comments from the board. And I have Vice President Lopez and Trustee Maestas, and then Trustee Brown, and then Trustee Irvin. So Vice President Lopez.
Thank you. My question is for Mr. Herbst. You mentioned that there's hopefully I'm saying this correct, ESY students, we're giving 6 hours a day. So the first 4 are mandatory, and then the other 2 are to make up some hours, right?
Correct.
So that's about 40 hours 40 hours extra that they'll be receiving. Well, not extra because we're making up, right? So do you think that with what on average will that cover everyone's due hours for the year?
Tough to tell, but probably best to look at it. I hate to say it, but almost individual by individual. It definitely will help because I think that all of our kids made progress on distance learning. The amount of progress sometimes is dependent on the severity of the disability, but I would say 40 good hours is a nice chunk on top of the work that they've already been doing. So yes.
Great.
Thank you. Trustee Maestas?
Thank you. I have 2 questions. First on intercession. You mentioned, you gave an example, but I think I was writing my question as you were giving the example, so excuse me for if you already stated this. The students that are coming in for intercession, is this based on standards that they missed or maybe that they didn't master in the previous grade?
Yes. Yeah, in the previous course offering that they had taken this year, correct.
All right, so it's focused. All right, that's my first question. And then my next question is on the summer programs, the re-engagement. Do we see this continuing after this year when we have more teachers and admin, like less, there's always going to be fatigue in a year, right? But this is an exceptional year. So maybe when we have less fatigue, we have more interest. Do you see this as something we can continue for our community?
Absolutely. This is our first time trying it. It's our pilot year, but we absolutely see it happening, especially because we do have the extra CARES funding, which is what it's for, the extended learning opportunities.
Yeah, and just on that note, it reminded me of when I get the little pamphlets in the mail about all the camps that I can send my kids to, but I can't ever really send my kids to a camp, mostly because summer camps are really, really expensive. And I think offering things like this where our kids can go to be engaged in things is going to be helpful for not only engagement this year, but just engagement of our community. And so I'm really, really excited. I'm like super excited about this. So thank you.
Yay.
Thank you. Trustee Brown?
So one logistic question, and then I've got another question that wasn't addressed. So is everything happening simultaneously? So the re-engagement opportunities, they're happening during the summer school time period, or is there a different?
Yes, it's a very complex matrix, but what I will say is, for example, if a student in the morning, let's say a 3rd grade student, is getting some remediation time, let's say at Martown, making it up, then after remediation in the afternoon, if there is a boot camp that they're interested in, such as a book club, they can stay and participate. So they're not conflicting. It may be the same day, but the hours aren't conflicting. And we're also going into July, where the remediation program is not in July at all.
Yeah, to get to Trustee Brown's question, we won't have we won't have a re-engagement opportunity at 8:30 in the morning that kids are going to miss out because they're in remediation. It will be in addition to if they're in remediation. Plus,
Okay,
it
good.
stretches into the month of July, which remediation will not stretch into.
So my second question, once again, summer like no other. 2021 is a year like no other. And but one thing that's consistent is that our kids need to eat. Many of these kids are used to coming to school early for a breakfast and being there for lunch. And without those meals, they may not have those meals. Are we going to have food service provided before? And will there be lunches available? And can this tie in with the government programs that provide services to parks?
I don't know about the summer feeds program. If you want to comment, I will tell you this. Yes, our students who attend those programs will be receiving food. So yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Trustee Irvin?
I just didn't know if Mr. Surley had a.
Sorry, Mr. Zerly, did you have a response?
No, not really, other than it will not interrupt our normal summer feed programs, if that's what you're asking.
Thank you. Trustee Irvin?
My first question was answered with Trustee Maestros in terms of continuing, being able to continue this great offering for our students. My second,
Can you turn your microphone on, please?
it's on.
Oh.
Yeah, it's on. Yeah. Yeah, that's muffled because
That's better.
me. See?
Yes.
The second question was marketing wise. How are we marketing this out there to maximize the outreach to our students on these great opportunities out there?
Luckily, we have one of the best chief communication officers in this area. So Ms. Noonan is waiting patiently for this board meeting so that we can do stuff kind of more on a district level. But I will tell you one benefit, the sites were truly happy getting their opportunity to serve their own students in a summer school session. So I can tell you, once we finalize those teacher numbers and can identify the number of students that we can have at a school site, not only will we be getting what Krista can provide from a district perspective, but there will be heavy site push in terms of what's coming out of our individual school sites.
And I also, just to add to that, I did mention this meeting to our Modesto Bee reporter, Deke Faro, and I'm unsure if Deke is watching. He usually does. If not, he'll watch it the next day. But I did mention this topic was going to be discussed by the board. And then we also have some additional outreach. Obviously, it's pending the board's action tonight, but we will definitely promote it and get the word out.
Okay, thank you. And last one, going back to the intercession. How is it? So intercession is happening right now during this?
Intercession will be happening during the intercession will be happening in the summer months, beginning right after school.
Beginning right after school?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
But Trustee Irvin, to your point, we actually have people doing Saturday academies, and again, I don't want to bird walk it too much, but we still have some sites that are doing some stuff currently, don't we, Brad? Or no? Okay. Okay. It will definitely begin in June.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, can we get the other two who haven't spoken, and then we'll come back to you, Trustee Brown. Trustee Mejia?
Yes, mine's just going to be brief because I think we're in the same sync with the two people over there. Intercession, I just really want to say perfect. I think it's awesome, and hopefully we continue ongoing with that intercession part. The re-engagement, I think one of the biggest things where we see like kids falling back is in the summer. And I know there's research where lower income socioeconomic status children don't have the opportunities to watch a lot more TV, all that. So I'm really just want to say, go ahead, and if we can save some money for more than the 3 years, figure out a way to continue on going forward. I just want to commend that because I do think there's a lot of fallback during the summer months, and there's research around that in terms, especially in some low socioeconomic side of neighborhoods, some of the ones we are sitting on currently. So I just want to commend you for the program, and hopefully that we can figure out ways to extend as many dollars as possible past, that period of time. So just want to did almost pretty much what some of the other. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Marks?
Yeah, most of my questions were answered, so thank you. I had the one about how are we going to inform the families, because that's really important. And I like the idea of boot camp. That's a neat name, just to say boot camp. But for those children to have that extra, we'll call it boots on the ground, and get their brains going again too. So I love it. I just love hearing these 2 opportunities for 2 months of summer learning. And then also, I'm hoping that we can add Saturday school to the fall. I know that wasn't a discussion in this report, but I think it will be very beneficial for those students who fall behind to catch them right away. So as a teacher notices that, they can get caught up. Maybe, let's just say your student is behind a couple of weeks, you're realizing they're failing their tests. So let's get them in something right away so they don't get further and further behind. And then I know there's a lot of different schools around us and in other counties nearby that are doing that. They're doing Saturday school to help the students with COVID or during this time of COVID. So that's been really good. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Brown.
So, Ms. Odell, you mentioned that, excuse me, Dr. Odell, you mentioned that one limitation would be the number of staff members willing to participate at every school site. Is there a possibility that any child would be turned away?
Well, I sure hope not. What I'm seeing in terms of the numbers, what we're allowed into the class, of course, we still are following our safety measures. Every student who wants to participate is going to have the chance. And when I say that we have 93 boot camp proposals, some of those, such as what's happening at Modesto High, that one represents 4 because they need 4 teachers to do an influx for 9th graders coming in, 10th graders coming in. So some of them represent 80, 90 students within one proposal. So I think we have enough folks to go around. I know that Gregory just asked me if they can send in a few more themselves. So people see what their peers are doing. They say, I'll join you, I'll partner with you in that boot camp. So it's really catching on.
I love hearing about these exciting summer things that we have going on, and I know people are weary, and I know it's been a hard year, and I know they're exhausted and they're at the end, but I think this might be something that's going to renew the passion of why teachers got into what they're doing. I think students are thirsty for some sense of normalcy and being on campus and being with their friends. And I think the teachers are thirsty to do what they went into teaching for. It's been a rough year and I think not very rewarding for a lot of teachers. And so this is going to give them an opportunity to teach something that they love and they're passionate about, and that passion's going to trickle down to the students, and I think it's going to be a win-win for everyone. And I'm thrilled that we have so many teachers who are willing to do this during the summer, so that's awesome news. Thank you very much. I am thinking it might be a good idea to have a break right now. Trustee Brown, are you? I think this was just a report. Just a report?
Yeah, the dollars that we're going to be using for summer school is actually coming in at the next board meeting with multiple things. It's the AB 86, so the funding for this is going to be in another board meeting.
Are we all feeling like we need a break at this time, or do you want to push forward for a bit? We have a lot more to get through tonight, just to let you know. Short break. Can we take a break for 10 minutes and then we'll come back? So can you put 10 minutes on the clock, please? Thank you.
Well, what it is there are new guidelines that came out last Friday, and it said that, one, they either have to show a vaccination report at campus and 6 feet apart. And so everybody's like, that's
How is
not,
that even going to be
that's exactly. So yes, they're calling it a prom, but it's sitting at 6 feet apart. So isn't that going to cause more issues? So we're going to send you the guidelines. We just got the guidelines Friday in the afternoon. So they Yeah, and
It might be like, oh, I'm table with my friends.
right. Well, they actually made some really good points. So 200 capacity, which means you have to do 2 proms per club. Prom isn't going to just happen by sitting there at assigned tables. A lot on challenges. The other piece is, I mean, this is true. If someone is positive, then everyone's quarantined for 14 days. Test or no test or anything. So this aligns with graduation, which is what they're trying to plan for right now.
That's something that they need to know.
It's almost like
Thank you. Thank you. We're returning to our board meeting this evening.
Microphone.
And we're returning to our board meeting, and we will open with item B5. This is the approval of resolution number 2021-26 to authorize temporary amendment to board policy administrative regulation related to graduation requirements and delegation of authority to the superintendent in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency during 2020-2021 school year. That's a mouthful. Mr. Godot, would you lead us on this one, please?
Yes, thank you, and good evening, Board President Dr. West, trustees, Superintendent Dr. Noguchi, Cabinet, and community tuning in this evening. Before you this evening, as President West pointed out, resolution number 2021-26. I'm not going to read the title again. That is quite a mouthful. But we'll get right into the details of what we're presenting forward or moving forward to the board tonight for your consideration. As outlined in the resolution, in April of last year, the COVID pandemic really took hold in our district. In April of last year, the CDE issued guidance on student grading and graduation, and that local education agencies should weigh their policies with a lens towards equity and a goal of doing no harm to students. Now, I'm not going to read point by point through the resolution. Most of it is just the lead up to what the resolution is really asking for around graduation and graduation waivers. But I do want to point out that the resolution outlines the education code, the board bylaws, the board policies, and administrative regulations that are applicable to graduation and graduation requirements. The resolution states that the superintendent is delegated the authority to take all appropriate action to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic and provide modified standards for graduation and matriculation, including but not limited to, and this is where I'm going to be specific, around A, B, C, and D on page 2 of the resolution. A states that compliance with graduation requirements will be considered on an individual basis pursuant to Board Policy Administrative Regulation 6147, and the request to waive district graduation requirements may be initiated by a parent, guardian, counselor, or school administrator. Additionally, for the 2021 school year, Board Policy Administrative Regulation 6147 shall permit both graduation requirement course and credit waiver requests. Said requests for course and credit waivers shall apply to students enrolled in comprehensive, alternative ed, and adult education programs. The superintendent is authorized to modify matriculation and promotion standards for grades K through 8. And lastly, but certainly not least, for this school year, a student's unsatisfactory citizenship marks shall not affect a student's ability to participate in promotion graduation ceremonies in grades 7 through 12. And also, due to extenuating circumstances, a site principal can make exceptions based on behavior deemed significantly inappropriate. So what does that mean to the board this evening in this decision-making process? First off, the ability to provide a waiver process for students to be considered to meet a minimum requirements to graduate from Modesto City Schools. That process cannot waive a state graduation requirement. So in the state of California, there is a 130 credit minimum requirement for graduation, but those credits are in very specific areas. So for example, the state of California requires 2 years of mathematics. Modesto City Schools requires 3. The state of California requires 3 years of English. Modesto City Schools requires 4. Additionally, the state does not require elective credits, and in Modesto City Schools there are credits required above the course-specific requirements. So this will give us an opportunity to support students that have been adversely affected and impacted through the pandemic of the last year. And so I also want to point out that this, and this is key, that this is a temporary resolution for this year only. and would sunset at the end of this graduating class's term. And I would suggest that that would be at the end of our summer school program, so those students that may meet certain requirements through summer school would still be eligible for that process. So this evening, before you, we ask for your approval of this resolution. And with that, I am available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Godot. Ms. Chambers, do we have any comments from the public this evening? Thank you. And Ms. Noonan, any comments to be read from the public?
No, we do not.
Thank you. At this time, we'll take comments or questions from the board. I'm going to start with Student Rep Carranza and then Trustee Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Godot, for the report. I know we've talked throughout the year about how students K through 12 have not had the same educational experience. They have not been able to learn to the same quality they have in the past. So I think this is incredibly important, and I'm really happy to see that there's some modifications being made to help specific students have the opportunity to graduate despite a lot of the challenges they face this year. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Brown.
Yes, I think this is a really important measure for us to consider, and I want to refer to letter A on page 3. I want to make sure, with focus on our equity task force, that there are not underrepresented students whose needs would not be addressed. I want to make sure that that we're aggressive at making sure that we're approaching the needs of every student rather than waiting for someone to initiate a request. So how can that be built into this?
Well, it'll start tomorrow morning at our teaching and learning group meeting, where we'll be presenting the board's direction to our senior director, school leadership, student support services leadership team. That will roll out then in guidance to site principals and admin teams, so we can frame that appropriately at that time with that direction. Obviously, time is of the essence in that work. It will take time to go back through and evaluate a senior's graduation requirements based on whatever it is that the board decides to move forward with this evening. So yes, that would go into action tomorrow, and we would definitely communicate the emphasis on equity. So that's to the student level, ensuring that everybody has the same access to this process.
Thank you. Trustee Irvin?
Yes, and this may be a little bit off topic. We have this temporary policy that's going to go into a resolution there, go into effect. Does this affect, or are there colleges that are doing some similar things with their requirements for students that are going to be coming in who are experiencing some of the pitfalls of online virtual learning that we know of in terms of adjusting requirements, making adjustments at the college level?
I am not aware of any considerations being made by colleges, higher education, around their entrance requirements. I'm not aware of that.
Vice President Lopez?
Yes, I have a question for section D, or item D. At the bottom, it says the site principal can make exceptions based on behavior deemed significantly inappropriate. We're talking about, what we were talking about earlier about, biases and ways of thinking. Is there a guideline from principals must follow to when they make the recommendation of not graduating, that there's a certain standard that they must meet for section D?
I would like to clarify that that section addresses walking the stage, not graduating. So the waiver process would allow a principal could if the waiver was approved based on credits and courses, that wouldn't be revoked. It's talking about participation in the ceremony itself. But specifically to that point, the process would not rest solely, the principal would initiate the process. Current policy states around multiple U's at the end of the third quarter would not allow a student to participate in the ceremony. In addition, any, and I want to say it's 5 days or more of suspension also would exempt a student from participation. Now, with distance learning and everything else that we've had in place this year, our suspension rate's been pretty low. So this is really meant to be there to support a site that might have a student that just completely loses it and does something completely egregious, and that would be a very heavy decision. And that guidance to principals would include their school leadership, senior director, myself, probably many people considering the severity of that before we would exempt any student from participating in a ceremony. So I just want to state that openly, that I think there would be very far and few between situations where a student would be not allowed to participate.
Yeah, and thank you for making the clarification that it's not graduation while walking the stage. The question still remained, and thank you for answering. So if I'm hearing correctly, it could end up being by one major event, single event that can invoke this
Yes.
privilege of a site principal. Okay.
It could, yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions, I'm now looking for a motion to approve resolution number 2021-26. And I am going to say that it was moved by Student Representative Carranza and seconded by Trustee Mejia. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Moving on to B6, we're looking for approval of assessment and data reporting platform services agreement with Power School Group, and this will be Mr. Reynolds.
Good evening. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague here, Ryan, in just a moment. But good evening, President West, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Noguchi. I just wanted to start this off by giving this as an example of the way that we're doing systems analysis in our district. What I mean by that is that we're trying to improve the educational process and experience for our students through investment in technology, not the other way around. We're not looking for technology and seeing how it fits, but what is the need or the why of what we're doing with the technology services in terms of system selection. We also worked hard on this particular project as an example of where we wanted to avoid islands of systems and keep it as a core application, meaning all teachers will have access to the system. And we want to make it an effective and efficient system, meaning that a teacher doesn't have to go to multiple systems to accomplish the goal of whatever automation we're doing. Specifically, this is an assessment system. Given this past year, we really needed to look at what the tool we had in place and to see if we could do something better for our teachers and the students in terms of interim assessments, having a tool that was flexible for the teachers to be able to assess their students ad hoc, check for understanding, maybe it's on a daily basis or past one lesson that they've covered for the day. So another element you'll see in this project that we're going to do with all of our systems analysis is stability for the teacher. If I'm changing my curriculum, my structure, and I'm learning a new system, I don't want it to be for 1 or 2 years. I want to have some stability in the system selection that the district has done working with our stakeholders. So specifically, you'll see that we'll bring contracts forward that are 3 to 5 years. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan so he can go through the details of the system selection and the stakeholder involvement in this system.
All right. Well, good evening, Board President West, Board Trustees, Dr. Noguchi, Cabinet. This evening, I'd like to address our expiring contract with School City. That's our current assessment and data platform, and it expires in June. Our one-to-one district, where every student has a laptop device, has outgrown School City in its limited feature set. Chief among our concerns is the product isn't used or liked by our teachers, and this is a serious issue. Further, School City was acquired in the last few years by a larger assessment platform vendor, and since then, support for School City, our current product, has declined. So we pulled together a stakeholder group and evaluated the top platforms on the market, and today we are asking for your approval of our stakeholder recommendation, a 3-year initial contract with Performance Matters. All right, with the slides now. In terms of goal alignment, an assessment platform will certainly contribute to academic achievement and improved outcomes, support our work with MTSS, and aid in sharing data with our stakeholders. But it is important that we are on the same page with what an assessment platform is or what it does. So as I stated already, currently we use School City, and this would replace that product. We use this platform to give tests, quizzes, and performance tasks, surveys as well. We also use it to store all assessment data, including our assessments given outside of our assessment platform, like the SAT or CASP scores, a number of different assessments. Finally, it allows us to share or safely share custom data reports that break down the data by district, school, grade, and student group. Very important tool in my world and in our teachers' world. So we actually started this process last spring. Our staff investigated the platforms available in today's market and what new features are out there. In the fall of the school year, we took on some initial demonstrations by vendors to help us get our bearings and really just to see what was possible. In February of this year, we drafted a scope of work for this project and an evaluation rubric for potential stakeholders to use. And last month, we scheduled our vendor demonstrations with the top 2 vendors who already met most of the required elements, Illuminate's DNA and PowerSchool's Performance Matters. We knew our invited stakeholders would then weigh in, and we would need to take this to you, the school board, for approval in April in order to allow us time to basically set up the new platform for the new school year. So I mentioned stakeholder input. When scheduling the demonstrations, we included a broad group of 40 stakeholders. I'll break these down a little on the next slide. I should note that we also met early on with other divisions to fine-tune our evaluation rubric and to include measures that we may not have considered on our own. I'm sure they were thrilled that I put their picture in this presentation. As you can see, we broke the mold when setting up our evaluation process and included folks from all corners of the district when conducting our 3 stakeholder meetings in March. From teachers at all levels to school administrators and several divisions, we definitely had the bases covered there. Our stakeholders were provided with a multi-page rubric to use for note-taking. They were thrilled when they saw how many pages it was. It covered 5 key areas, and we identified these 5 areas for vendor analysis. These ranged from how well the product integrates with existing teacher and student tools to how easy it is for a teacher to create standards-based classroom assessments and share results. It was clear that Performance Matters excelled in key areas, some of which included, for teachers, it just works. It works with teachers' online classrooms in Schoology. It works with their gradebook. And it's owned by and works with PowerSchool, the student information system our teachers use. Teachers can create assessments easily using item banks or their own material. Training materials can be integrated into our current PD catalog online, and it's easy to share data quickly and securely, including importing and exporting reports. As a platform, it's easier to set up and keep running because it's owned by our current student information system, PowerSchool. So all that information's there to push right into it. So, let's look at a real-life example of Performance Matters integrating with our teacher's workflow. Imagine Heather, a math teacher, decides to administer a formative assessment that her professional learning community, or PLC, created together. She decides, along with her fellow teachers, to give the test to her students right there in Schoology. She adds the assessment on Friday and tests her students that day. Her students take the assessment in their Schoology class online and submit their test to be auto-scored. Heather knows some teachers chose to print scannable bubble-in answer sheets for students instead, but she knows testing in Schoology is just more efficient for her. After school, using the MCS app portal, Heather logs into Performance Matters to see how her students did on the assessment. She first sees her class dashboard. After selecting this assessment, she can see results by standard or item compared to the school and district and by student, all within just a couple clicks. She quickly sees that her students struggled with the first standard. After selecting item analysis, Heather also sees that many students struggled with a particular item on the test. She can easily click and see that item and how each student responded. After a little more data mining, Heather syncs her students' test results to her Power Teacher Pro gradebook and goes home for the night. On Monday, Heather works with her fellow teacher, Minerva, to create a new baseball card report with the results and compares how her students did this year compared to a similar assessment the year before. It also factors in other early warning system indicators such as attendance and behavior, also information located in PowerSchool. Heather can customize her report by adding a whole host of other measures from the navigation menu to further compare her students' growth or progress in multiple areas. She can even include her students' results from the recent social emotional survey she gave them. Heather copies and pastes the direct link to this report in an email, which she sends to the rest of her grade level team. When her fellow teachers click the link, they will see their own results in a similar format for their students. This example is just one of the many on-demand reports that Performance Matters can generate and deliver. School and district level reports are also available and easy to manipulate and distribute to site administrators. This is just another view of how well all of our tools would now integrate. With this tool, we bring the power of our data and align it with our instruction, our professional development, and our online classrooms. Again, it just works. Another exciting thing about these reports that it can create is that right now our teachers and our staff members have reports from various other systems. With this system, they could have one place to go to find their data. That's huge. You don't have to do as much work to get to the important stuff. PowerSchool Performance Matters also increases the content available for and access to parents and students. Whereas our parents are already accustomed to accessing their child's information on PowerSchool, they will now be able to access additional assessment data. With the board's approval, we'll be working with our Public Information Office to set up future training sessions to increase parent and student engagement. As you can imagine, at the conclusion of our vendor demonstrations, 93% of the responses from our stakeholders indicated that Performance Matters was their choice. As one teacher put it, "I hate School City. If you want me to use an assessment platform, it needs to work with Schoology, and it needs to work with my gradebook, period." We therefore ask for your approval and support of an initial 3-year contract with Performance Matters at a cost not to exceed $456,000. This is approximately half the cost of Illuminate over 3 years, and even boasts a savings compared to our current vendor, School City, whose last quote before the pandemic was nearly $70,000 more than the Performance Matters on an annual basis. With board approval, setting up Performance Matters will take a few months as we need to import years of prior assessment data, set up user accounts and permissions, and prepare training materials. This recommendation and the full supporting analysis report has been provided to you. Easy reading. Please take a look. After this evening, as I shared, we will proceed with installation and importing of historical data. We also need to recreate a number of internal assessments, build them so that they can be given within that system. We need to consider when training can be conducted, whether live, online, or through self-paced modules. Check, check, check. Yes, all possible and will occur. We're already working with Curriculum and Instruction and Professional Development Division to deliver some optional summer training and develop a solid plan for training staff for this coming school year, of course, if approved. I know there's a lot to chew on here, but I wanted to take a moment and answer your questions. And, of course, thank you for your time and consideration tonight.
Thank you for a very interesting presentation. We're going to go to Ms. Chambers first to see if we have any comments from the public. None. Ms. Noonan, do we have any comments to be read from the public tonight?
No,
on
there were
this?
none submitted on this item.
Thank you. So we'll now go to the board, and I see Trustee Maestas for questions or comments.
Thanks. It's always nice when things work for teachers, right? I have a question on the assessment items themselves. On the example you gave, actually, there's about 3 questions here on that. How are the assessments created? Are they already, like, do you have canned assessments in there, or do you go in there and create them? Or can a teacher create their own formative assessment for their class? Or all of the above?
Yes. And
All of
that's
the above, okay.
That was part of the evaluation process. Is it needs to be able to do all of those things and be flexible to do all those things. And not only can teachers go in and create their own assessment using a proofed item bank that standards aligned with the California state standards, very important, but there's also canned assessments in there where someone's already done that for them. And then also, that's part of the work that I'll be doing after this, is importing our district benchmarks and things like that, so that those can easily be administered. And the upside is, it can not only be administered like we can already do with the current system, but it can be done right there within the student's online classroom experience. So it's not something where they have to go and print things out and have kids log into 3 different programs to do it. It's just there. So, huge deal.
And then, not that this is going to sway me in any way, I'm just interested in this question here. I've always found it difficult finding a platform that can mirror the types of questions that students are going to see on the CASP, mainly in like drawing for mathematics, like drawing tools, calculators within the thing. Just the stem of the questions themselves, or in a ELA where they have the passage and you have the questions and things. So how close does this allow you to mirror things like that and give you options, or are there only set ways that they have there for the questions involved?
That's a great question. This isn't a plant. I didn't give them the questions to ask in advance. No, these are great questions. And the truth is that, yes, that was, again, another area that we looked at, that it needed to be not just the typical multiple choice questions that maybe we grew up with, Scantrons. Instead, it needed to be layered. It needed to have multiple item types, we call them. It needed to be interactive. And beyond that, they also needed to have the ability to apply accommodations for our students with special needs of any sort. So there's probably more there than I have time to train within just a couple hours. It's going to take a pretty heavy dose of ongoing training to teach people all of the features and all of the different item types that are out there.
Thank you.
Trustee Marks?
So I wanted to ask, are the parents, are they going to notice any change in the information that they're going to be receiving on PowerSchool?
So I think first and foremost, like I said, I'd be working with our public information office. So on our website, I mean, that's a pretty front and center opportunity to access that information. But yes, my understanding is that there'll be something called an app switcher for us to be able to easily move back and forth between the different platforms that we're already using. And so for a parent, they'll be able to more easily see, and there'll be more results as well, their own students' assessment results, not only within PowerSchool or PowerSchool Parent Portal, but then also they'll have their own account that they could go into Performance Matters and see data as well. So yeah, they will notice when they're using it for sure, but I think first and foremost they'll notice the opportunities for trainings, the opportunities to learn more about it.
Okay, that's good. Well, I'm really happy that this is something, it sounds great for the teachers, sounds like, it's not going to disrupt parents and what they know, but they can learn more if they want to. And then it saves money. It's shocking. I can't believe it. It's like an all-around win. How can we say no to this? So I'm excited for just to have them all merge. Whenever you have so many different platforms, and it's frustrating to a teacher, my friends that are teachers, this is really frustrating at times to input some data and not have it merged together with the other data they need. So this is great, and they can look up so many things. I hope My thing is, oh man, I just don't want to overwhelm them with too much. Like, it'll do this, and did you know it'll do this, and this too, and that. I just feel like it's the Dr. Seuss book, where it's all these neat things, but it's like, wait, only because I get overwhelmed with technology. So I'm looking forward to having our teachers be able to use this and find a simple way to get it going, and then move to different levels how they want. So that's good, but thank you. That's awesome. So when you're ready, I'd love to make the motion.
We're almost there. I also am happy that the teachers have several different modalities that they can use to train themselves, because some people, learn better hands-on. Some people really are into the virtual right now. And so I like that we have a lot of different avenues for our teachers to access the training. So I think, seeing no more lights or hands, we are ready for a motion to approve the assessment and data reporting platform services agreement with Power School Group.
I will make the motion.
It is moved by Trustee Marks and seconded by Trustee Brown. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to B7. This is an approval of the Resolution 2021-29, authorizing reduction and/or elimination of classified and classified management services for the 2021-2022 school year. And this is Mr. Henderson.
Yes, good evening, and Board President West and trustees, Dr. Noguchi and cabinet members, here to present an item of which the delivery is not presented with such spirit and fervor as the last, so tough one to follow, but important nevertheless. In this item, the district recommends approval of the resolution authorizing reduction and or elimination of classified and classified management services for the 21-22 school year. This is an annual process and an item brought forward to the board each year as the district analyzes its operational needs in terms of levels of classified and classified management service and funding. The positions brought forward today are not the result of the pandemic. Majority of them are the result of reclassification process, which I'll explain. It's important that the reduction elimination process is governed by Education Code and Article 9 of our CSEA contract, and that we engage with CSEA throughout the process, which we've done since January. A number of occasions to make sure they're apprised of the proposed layoffs and the positions that are affected. Back on March 18th, district staff met with CSEA leadership to present and review the proposed list, explain each of the positions that would be affected, and answer questions. And then 2 weeks later, on the 31st, we met again as the Classified Layoff Committee to review adjustments to the list and vote on the final proposed layoff list as required. We also met with CSEA on various multiple occasions regarding various department reorganizations, and those have been on the topics of our consult meetings as well. I want to give a brief breakdown of some of the groupings of positions on the layoff to give you some perspective and context. There are 34 classified and 2 classified management positions on the reduction elimination list. 26 of those positions, 76% of them are vacant positions. There's not a person in the position at this time. Majority of them being the elimination of obsolete positions and job descriptions due to the reclassification into new positions and job descriptions and titles. For example, we did the Insurance Department reorganization to the Benefits Department, created new positions based on a restructure of the job descriptions, and those ranges actually ended up being slightly higher as we did the analysis of what the market is currently paying similar positions. So the individuals are in new positions at different job descriptions, higher range, and this action tonight eliminates the positions that were previously there, so no longer occupied. For example, that's one example of one of the phenomena that happens on the list. The board may be aware that positions for the Lakewood Campus Club are submitted each year pending confirmation of funding, as this is a parent-funded program. And so it's possible after the meeting that we'll get word that that confirmation is secured and we'd rescind the notification for affected individuals. 16 positions are on the list are due to reclassification or departmental reorganizations. The board's been apprised of those reorgs along the way. And 12 positions on the list are for different reasons, such as lack of work based on an analysis of the operational needs of the district. But most of these positions are vacant. For example, Graphics has seen a decrease in production. They reduced a position that's currently vacant. Analysis of the bus routes and transportation resulted in a reduction of routing needs, so they had vacant positions and were streamlining through a reduction of positions not currently filled. What remains, not counting the Lakewood program, are 4 classified and 2 classified management positions, which are currently filled by employees. And for any employees displaced as part of the layoff resolution, we've either held some positions just as we anticipate engaging further with those individual employees and CSEA, and we look at what rights they have to other positions that they may have held prior to their current ones. But I can assure you we exhaust all the efforts at our disposal to maintain employment when possible for all employees. So in typical years, very few employees are formally laid off at the end of the process, and all those efforts are exhausted. Board action is needed at this time in order for the district to meet its statutory timelines and proceed with the reduction and elimination process. And it's recommended that the board approve Resolution 20/21-29. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to.
Thank you. We'll begin by going out to Ms. Chambers. Do we have any comments from the public on this item? No, we do not. Ms. Noonan, do we have any comments from the public to be read on this item?
No, we do not.
Thank you. So looking for any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, we are looking for a motion to approve, and Student Representative Carranza, you won't be voting on this one, just to clarify. So we're looking for a motion, Trustee Mejia, to approve Resolution 2021-29, and it's seconded by Trustee Marks. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will be moving on now to B8, and this is a report on a recommended curriculum adoptions for the 2021-2022 school year. And this is Mr. Rich, I believe.
All right, so there we go. Good evening, President West, trustees, superintendent, and cabinet. My name is Mike Rich, and I work in the CIPD department. With me tonight is Maricela Mota and Miss Kim Newton as well. We comprise the CIPD team, a portion of the team, rather. The purpose of tonight's presentation is to bring to you, of this report, is to bring to you the recommendations from the 712 adoption committees for textbooks. This aligns with Goal 1, increase academic achievement and ensure equitable access to engage all students to attain college and career readiness. So you might ask yourself, why are we adopting these books? What's the rationale for this? The CIPD division is a new division. It's our second year that we've existed, and one of the purposes of the realignment was to make sure that there was some responsibility in regards to the instruction as well as the curriculum. So we have this year created a 10-year plan coordinating all adoptions that would include IB, AP, CTE courses, all of those, as well as just general education. We tonight are finishing up the math and science adoptions. Last year we brought to you about half of those, and we're bringing the other half this year. The last time world languages, Spanish and French, were adopted was about 2007. So since that time, there have been some new state standards and frameworks, as well as the last time the health book was adopted was over 20 years ago. And since that time, the health framework has been through several revisions. So, in accordance with board policy and AR 6161.1, over the course of the last 8 months, individual teacher committees have met to review publisher options. They've piloted the curriculum with students, and then they've made recommendations. From April 5th through the 16th, we held a public preview of all recommendations. We held that in both a physical form at our office as well as in a digital format online. We had 535 visitors to online and a handful in person. We had no comments left in either location from those that viewed the curriculum. Tonight, we'd like to bring you recommendations for the following disciplines. So we'll look at science first, then we'll look at health, and this is 9th grade health. We'll look at math, then world languages. We have one adoption for English language arts and one adoptions for the CTE world. So first, let's look at those science options. We're going to look at AP Biology, AP Physics, Chemistry, Honors Physics in the Universe, as well as Introduction to Physical Science. So you'll see a similar pattern for each of the textbooks that we're recommending tonight. So the first for AP Biology, we are recommending the Campbell Biology in Focus AP edition. Interesting part about some of the science curriculum is it covers multiple courses. So this will cover not only AP Biology, but the IBHL Biology 1 and 2 course at Modesto High, as well as the Science and Ethics of Biotechnology, which is part of the pathway at Enox High School. The teacher committee involved in this, and I have to say, and I'll say it for everyone at this moment, the amount of work on top of everything else that the teachers were doing this year was a phenomenal workload. For the curriculum coordinators, the coaches, and the teachers that did this, to ask them to do this in the current environment was a Herculean task, and we are so grateful for their hard work, their dedication, for their meeting after school and piloting curriculum with their students. It was quite the task. So for AP Biology, really thankful to Vincent, Sue, Daryl, James, and Erica for this committee. The AP Biology book will be a digital and physical book for each student. It will include AP prep material over the 6-year life of this adoption for just under $130,000. Next is AP Physics. You'll see a similar pattern again. The Knight College Physics, the approach, the AP, the 4th edition for the AP edition is our recommendation. The teacher committee for this included Jonathan, Levito, Danae, and then from our office, Lauren Davis. This book, again, digital and physical book for each student, 6-year adoption with AP prep materials. This comes to just over $55,000 for the life of that adoption. One of the things that we have moved towards to match the new standards in science is the integrated or the 3-course model. So instead of teaching earth science at the freshman level, we're going to spread earth science out across physical science, biology, and chemistry. So last year we adopted biology, and this year we're adopting the other two in that course sequence. So the first one is chemistry. It is the McGraw-Hill Inspire Chemistry book. This book will also cover multiple courses. You'll see them listed there. Chemistry in the Earth Systems. This is formerly referred to as CP Chemistry. Honors Chemistry in the Earth Systems, formerly the Pre-AP course. Pre-AP is now a registered trademark of the College Board, so we're switching the term to honors. And then as well as the Modesto High IB Prep Chemistry and the Applied Chemistry and Biotechnology, again, part of the Enox pathway, forensic pathway. This committee was a little bit larger because of the honors and the CP versions. So you'll see here again, James, Kim, Francisco, Stuart, Courtney, Sharon, and Amy, as well as Dave Winfrey. Again, fantastic group of teachers who put a lot of work into this. Similar to the other adoptions, digital and physical book for each student. This one comes with some Study Sync California Blast, similar to what we have in the ELA course. So we're going to see that in the chemistry. It also comes with the ALEX Adaptive Online Learning Platform, specific to science. 8-year contract comes to just over $550,000. And again, the amounts differ depending on the enrollment of the courses, right? Some courses are larger at district-wide than others. Next is the California Inspire Physics. This will be for our Honors Physics in the Universe. This is the freshman level honors science course. You'll see here it also covers the Engineering Essentials course, which looks to be offered at several of the sites, as well as the IB Prep Physics and then Physics in general. The committee for this, again, a stalwart group of teachers, Megan, Levito again, Danae again, and Melissa, as well as several members from our office to help facilitate that. This, again, digital and physical book comes with a Study Sync Blast 8-year contract, comes to almost $175,000 over the life of that adoption. Rounding out the 3-course pathway is the Introduction to Physical Science, which will be the freshman level course that will replace the Earth Science. The McGraw-Hill, you'll notice it's the same book as the chemistry. A lot of the same features there. This book again, the committee here again, because we're changing this curriculum to the extent matching the new standards, we had a large group here interested. So Jeff, Charles, April, Stuart, Priscilla, Alejandra, and Melissa, as well as our science team in CIPD, helped facilitate that. The book, again, digital and physical with the Study Sync Blast, 8-year contracts, just over $500,000 for that for the life of that adoption. That represents the curriculum that we're recommending for science. So next we're going to move into the health curriculum. As I said, it's been over 20 years since we adopted a health curriculum, sorely needed. The recommendation that the committee is bringing forward is the Essential Health Skills 3rd edition from GW Publishing. With this, with the what we call the CHIA, the California Healthy Youth Act, there's a requirement that didn't exist in our previous curriculum to teach human sexuality. And part of that law allows parents to opt out of that curriculum if they see fit. So what we have asked from the publisher is for the human sexuality chapters to be in a separate textbook, so that when the parents opt out, they have the option to not even have that part of the textbook. So that's why you see 2 books there. It's the same publisher, just the last 2 chapters of the book, chapter 23 and 24, will be in a separate booklet. The committee here consists of Kelly, Taya, and Laura. And I got to admit, we started this adoption for health prior to the pandemic and kind of had to put it on pause. So these 3 teachers have put a lot of work into this over the last 2 years to get to this point. With this, digital and physical textbook satisfies the parental opt-out according to Ed Code. 8-year contract aligns with the new standards and framework, which is something we did not have before, for about $511,000 over the life of that adoption. Next, we'll move into mathematics, and last year we did adopt for algebra, geometry, and algebra 2, which is the bulk of the curriculum taught at the high school. But there are some kind of, we talked about last board meeting, some fringe classes that we still needed to kind of clean up for an adoption. So that's what you'll be seeing here tonight with AP Calculus, AP Stats, Pre-Cal, Finite Math. A couple of new courses, including the Quantitative Reasoning with Data Science, Pre-Algebra, as well as Math for the Trades. And then you'll see a couple classes here for the junior high. So the AP Calculus textbook, I have to admit, the last time we adopted AP Calculus was a long time ago, because in 2003, when I taught calculus, we used the current book we have now, so it's been a while. Not really that calculus has changed much since Newton penned it down. But the Stewart Calculus for AP Complete Edition, this aligns directly with all the changes made to the course outline from the College Board. The committee consisted of Crystal Hill and Shelley Taylor. The other calculus teachers did participate and kind of view the book, but just felt they were too busy to participate in the committee, but are happy with the selection that they have made. Digital and physical textbook for each student, including AP test prep material. There's an online homework and help support platform. This is a 6-year contract for about $57,000. AP Stats, Modeling the World, 5th edition from the author Bach. Again, it's been quite a few years since we had an AP Stats book, and the College Board regularly changes that every 3 to 6 years. The committee for this included Reluca, Jaime, Sally, Matt, and Ann. And this book, again, digital and physical textbook for each student, AP test materials, online homework, 6-year contract for just under $110,000. Next is pre-calculus. You'll notice that we removed the pre-AP prefix for that due to copyright. So we'll call that the honors pre-cal as well as pre-calculus. They're recommending the Blitzer pre-calculus 6th edition book. The committee consisted of Lori Gaines and Jennifer Bass. Again, digital and physical textbook, homework support, 6-year contract for about $151,000. The next textbook, the math teachers who taught this course have been bugging us for years to adopt this curriculum. So this is the Dave Ramsey Foundations in Personal Finance. Up until this year, Dave Ramsey only had about a 6-week course, and this year they've added a 180-day course, a full curriculum. Most of this will be happening online as well as some in print, but the teachers are very excited to bring a relevant financial literacy course into the framework. We do currently have a course, but it's a little bit outdated, so they're really excited about this. Those that participated, Mark, Ron, Matt, and Steve, really passionate team for this financial math class. Again, a digital book for each student, online curriculum, 7-year contract for just over $96,000. The next course is a new course. So the UC Doorways, and sometimes you'll hear us refer to A through G courses. UC Doorways is the portal where we submit courses for colleges to recognize it. They have added a third-year course, a course at the third year of mathematics that they'll accept. So traditionally, you're probably thinking algebra, geometry, algebra 2. That's what you would need for UC to satisfy your C in your UC credits. They have now added the quantitative reasoning course as a replacement for that third year mathematics. And I have to admit, we're one of the first districts to kind of get ahead of this. We're really excited. We feel like this is going to be a course that students are going to be highly engaged in. We're going to bring in data science, which is a huge growing field in the industry. And we're going to do that through Code HS software that we currently already have a license with for our computer science classes. Again, teachers are really excited about this course. Those that helped us out were Mark, Sally, Chris, and Aracelia, sorry. So this is, again, digital and physical textbook, online homework and support platform. This is only a 2-year contract, and that's because this is a college-level course. They don't do contracts the same way as they would with a K-12 system. Our intent is that if it works out well, that we would extend that contract and review that. Next course is a pre-algebra course, and this would be taught at the high school level. We don't anticipate this course being around forever, but we feel like over the last 2 years, there's a significant amount of unfinished learning that if we drop kids into algebra right away, we're going to fail them from the beginning. We'd rather support that a little bit early now and then have them do an appropriate course where they could get through a third-year A through G mathematics course their senior year. So we're looking at the pre-algebra, the Martin Gay 8th edition course. This was reviewed by John, Michael, Regan, Antonio, Daniel, and Julia. Very passionate conversations in regards to this course. This is a digital and a physical textbook with online homework support, 6-year contract for about $174,000. The next course is a new course, and one of the things that you'll see here soon, the framework for mathematics is in public review right now, and one of the things that the framework suggests is in the junior and senior year that students have a plethora of options in mathematics that would interest them. And so one of the things that we're going to try this class out, it's called Mathematics for the Trades. It would be a junior and senior level course. The idea would be that we would use tools in that class that would relate to trades. So calipers, construction squares, electricity, I'm out of my league here, but like ohms and other things that would be used in the work site to help teach the mathematics. This was, the committee that helped us with this is Mark, Sally, Chris, and Aracelia. She's going to get me for getting her name wrong. This, again, digital and physical textbook, online support. This is currently a 1-year contract for a couple reasons. Again, it's a college-level course or textbook, so they don't necessarily have the same contract. And we're also trying to try this course out. We want to kind of see how well it works and if we need to adjust it after that year. The last couple of math courses we have relate to junior high school. So an accelerated Math 7 class, we have been piloting some SWAN and SAVAS material. So the committee has elected to go with SAVAS, which aligns directly with what we have in high school. So this would be the Envision Mathematics Accelerated 2021 edition. Those that helped us out were Jose, Dee, Scott, and Krista. This again, digital textbook, physical textbook, 8-year contract for about $28,000. For non-honors at 7th and 8th grade, again, the Envision Mathematics aligning directly with what we have at the high school level. And a brand new addition comes highly recommended. You can see there that Kirsten, Miguel, Jessica, and Dewey helped us with that adoption. 8-year contract, digital and physical books for just over $500,000. Moving out of mathematics into world language. So as we said, it's been about 13 years since we last adopted world language. So for Spanish, including IB Prep Spanish, we're recommending the Senderos 1 through 4. For French, including the IB French, De Accord 1 through 3. And for Spanish speakers, Galeria 1 through 2. A large committee of world language teachers helped us with this. They were very excited because they haven't had an adoption for so long. So Wendy, Linda, Maria, Rosa, Elsa, Sylvia, Jocelyn, Josefina, Elvis, Claudio on the Spanish. And then for the Spanish for Spanish speakers was Laura, Claudia, Andres, Olga, and Elena. And then for French, Jalil Ijawe and Catherine Wheeler were our teachers for French. For world language, physical and digital textbook, online teacher and student platform, 7-year contract for a total of $2.1 million. This is a little bit more, and that's because the number of students in these courses, if you take all the Spanish, all the French, all the Spanish, there's a lot of students enrolled in these courses. To round out the world languages are the upper division world languages courses. So AP Spanish language, we're recommending the Temas for AP from Vista. For AP Spanish literature, we're recommending Reflexiones from Savas. IB Spanish Temas for IB, specifically written to their curriculum. And for IB French, Le Monde, and I'm sure I said that wrong, and Jalil will tell me. Le Monde? All right. Jalil will correct me. It'll be in my email tomorrow. Helping with the advanced courses was Olga, Josefina, Elvis, Elena, Jalil, and Claudio. So for these courses, for the upper division language courses, the fiscal impact comes to about $165,000. Next, we have one course in English Language Arts. This is for our Foundations of Literacy class. This course is taught for our newcomers, specifically at Davis High School and Roosevelt Junior High School. So those are the only courses the only locations where this is taught. They're recommending, again, just the newcomer course, California Read 180 Universal System. It was formerly it was Scholastic, but they've since been bought out. On this committee that helped us out here was Eric, Amelia, and Elizabeth. This is digital and consumable books, classroom print library, 7-year contract. This is $87,000 each year, and that's a software license piece that this comes with. The last book we have to recommend to you, and I know you're really sad we've come to the end, is a CTE course called Artificial Intelligence. And this course is specifically going to be taught in the Enoch's Computer Science Pathway course. And the teacher will be Amy Pizzoni. So she was the selection committee there. And this is a digital and physical book for each student with a fiscal impact of about $7,500. So the total fiscal impact of all those numbers that we just discussed, again, is going to depend on actual enrollment as well as contract negotiations that we have with the publishers as we make the adoptions. It will come to about $5.5 million. The next steps after today, this is just a report today, would be on the May 10th board meeting that the curriculum would be voted on and adopted by you, the board. And at this time, we're available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Rich. We'll start with Ms. Chambers to see if we have any comments from the public on this item.
No, there are none.
Thank you. Ms. Noonan, any comments to be read?
No, we did
Public?
not receive any.
Thank you. Questions and comments from the board? And I didn't see which light went on first, so I'm just going to go from my left. Trustee Maestas?
Thank you so much. This is, I want to just thank all the teachers for all of their hard work. I've been on adoption committees. It's a lot of work. especially all of the curriculum and text you have to compare. So outstanding, especially this year, all the work that's gone in. And just on a side note, I love that Stewart book, and the stats. The Bach book is my favorite stats book out there. I want to make a comment, and this is not going to prevent me from approving anything, but there is a major equity issue with remedial courses, and I want, and I know it's probably been debated, but the issue with pre-algebra, I'd like to tread lightly and carefully when that happens. I know you said that it all depends on enrollment, but I would be interested in if you move forward with pre-algebra in ninth grade, I'm not saying you, but you as in like the bigger you, right? Maybe collect some data on which kids are being put in that class, because we need to make sure we have opportunities for all kids at grade level content. And when you keep kids back, it doesn't give them the opportunity to get those 3 years in, or 4 years in if they want to go to university. So there's research and data on remedial courses. It's another reason why many universities have got away from remedial courses. I'd be much more apt to look at like an algebra 1A, 1B type of thing rather than a pre-algebra. And I've taught ninth grade pre-algebra in the past. So I just want to just express the caution in going back to that. Because we talk about giving equity, we talk about equity, this is something that kind of is the reverse of what we're trying to do. So I just want to make that, I want to express that in this piece. And I think that if the data do come back and show that we are being inequitable, then we need to rethink that course. So that's just my opinion on that.
Thank you. I appreciate so much having a math teacher on this board who understands, although the words "my favorite stats book" is not in my language. Trustee Irvin.
Wanted to know kind of what was the process that you went through in terms of selecting or adopting the curriculum. Is it like a rubric? How did they come up with the decision, like in particular the Read 180? How was that decided upon?
So yes, the first step we did, we invited all of the newcomer teachers, which is only 3, 2 at Roosevelt, 1 at Davis. 2 are going through the letters training, which helps the teachers learn to support students that are learning to read. And then the second process is they went through, so they looked at various things. So there is no perfect curriculum for our newcomer students. It's something that we have to support them a lot. They're one of our neediest students. So normally we go through a pilot process. For this committee, we did not. And the reason we did not go through a pilot process this year is because they're our neediest students. And then in a pandemic, online learning, we decided wasn't the best process for our students to change them curriculum midway through. So then after that, we did have a rubric. So some of the things that we looked through for our committee was we reviewed our standards. Then we also looked at frameworks. And then there's a newcomer roadmap. And that was part of the big process for deciding the curriculum for our newcomer students. So looking at those 3 items and tying it into a rubric system. So at the end of the process, the teachers voted. Since there was only 3 votes, we did it on an average.
So, because we've been with Read Naturally for, Read Naturally, man, I'm going way back. Read 180 for a while in our district, and so what about the data? And what is it that the data we've had over the years with Read 180 compared to some of the data from the other curriculum that that it was compared to.
So I don't have data for Language Live, but I do have internal data for our Read 180 and our System 44. Would you like me to state that data? Perfect. So for Read 180, we compared 3 years. So we did 19-20 just semester one because of the pandemic, and then 18-19 and 17-18. So just looking at our Read 180 classes at Davis and Roosevelt. So semester one, 19-20, the students had a growth of 76 lexile, which compared to other classes in our district, comparing English learners in a Read 180 class, their lexile was 56. So they were actually above 20 points above. In 18-19, they had an 193 lexile growth, and then compared to other English learners that were not newcomers in the Read 180 system, they were at 144, so they were still higher than other English learners. In 17-18, we had a growth of 170, and compared to our English learners in Read 180, they had 110, so 60 lexile difference for our newcomers. And then for System 44, the way it gets measured, it's a little bit different. So they get measured through accelerated gains and phonics inventory. So in 1920 semester one, 72% of the students made accelerated growth. In 18-19, it was 85% of students that made accelerated growth. And then 17-18, it was 77% of our students that made growth.
Thank you. Again,
Okay.
thank you for the process. Thank you, all the teachers that participated. Again, I just want to reiterate with Trustee Myers. I know it's an arduous process, and I know you're making the best decision possible for our students. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Lopez?
Yes, thank you for the report. I have a question in regards to the Math 7 and 8 with Envision Mathematics. I knew that a couple years ago we were piloting SWAN at, I believe, all but one of our middle schools, or was it all of them? All of them? Where's the status with that in regards to now implementing these books?
So we piloted SWAN at all the junior high schools last year. As part of that process, we sought teacher input. How well did it do? How well did the students do? Unfortunately, there was no end of year kind of CASP to kind of cap all that off. So we continued that pilot through this year, through the first semester. And at that point, the teachers came to us and said, hey, we have some reservations in regards to specifically the junior high content. We'd like to see if we can pilot to match the high school content, right? So that we're bridging either way. Either we're bridging up from 6th grade or through 8th and 9th grade. And as we piloted that, the committee came back and said, hey, we like the supports that are available in Savas. When they surveyed some of the students, they said, hey, Savas has a real-time kind of AI system that allows students to try a problem out. If they get it wrong, the system kind of gives them a hint. Hey, looks like maybe you need to try this, or don't forget this. And the students actually commented, hey, they really like that. They like that on-time kind of feedback right from the system. So those were some of the things that kind of swayed. I will say that the committee did have lots of positive things that they liked about SWAN, but overall they ended up with, they wanted to go with the Savas.
Got it. Understood. Okay.
Trustee Brown?
I'm looking at the price tag. How is it that we can afford in a single year to make this many adoptions? And is some of this as a result of COVID money? Is that why we're able to do it this year?
So that's a great question. We are not using necessarily COVID money for this. Every year, we put aside a certain amount of funds for the textbook adoptions. That fund rolls over every year so that we know when we have pilots and adoptions that we have funding for that. One of the projects we did was identifying that 10-year cycle, looking at how much money we have, how much we put in each year, and then about what the student enrollment would be, and then we estimate a cost of about $180 per textbook per student, and then we do all that math and we come out with a projection each year on how much we think we're going to use. Through that 10-year process, I believe we've looked down and kind of adjusted the amount that we put into that fund. So I believe it was an attachment. I don't know if it was on the agenda or not, but we can get you that, Trustee Brown, that projection so you can see the funding for that.
Trustee Marks?
Thank you. Yeah, I had thought about that too, and I was grateful that each time I'd see the budget, we had set aside quite a lot of money each year, and then knowing that we haven't adopted anything in ages. So this was a lot of math tonight. I was like, wow. When I saw the list, I was like, oh my goodness. But I did have a question on some of the math, like the math financial. I'm super happy. I have to say this is the number one question or concern that I get from parents when they're talking about their children or community members is, I want the students to understand how money works. And so I'm grateful that this is a program that we're going to be putting in our schools. So who takes this one? Who takes this?
So the financial math class is usually a 12th grade math course. A lot of that has to do with needing to meet certain requirements for A through G, and like we said, you have to hit those specific 3-year courses that they signify. So the senior level allows for a little bit more freedom on the math courses they take. So generally, this is a senior level course.
So it's optional for students. So it's not a
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Because I know we had a requirement when I graduated from high school from another county nearby. We had civics and econ were both what we had to pass our senior year, and so the econ would have covered a lot of this financial math, at least when we went through it. And sometimes I shake my fists in the air and go, if our legislators had just taken Econ 101, they'll understand how this works. So it's just like, come on, because that math is so basic to me, and so this will really help the students be able to know, life skills. To me, it's part of life skills, but it's one that parents do. So I'm glad that we have access to it. I just wish it was more students could do it, but I see that. And then let me see if I had another question. I did, we had a few conversations, and I appreciate the health curriculum and reviewing that. I did mine, I reviewed online, which thank you, Mr. Rich, for walking me through. You made that little video and click on this, click on that. So it really helped me get through it really quickly. And in just discussing it with some of the health teachers, I know there are some concerns about it. And so I'll see. I can't say that I'm for sure supporting it. I do appreciate the fact that the controversial material is a separate item, and how all the rest of it is handled is extremely well done. So there were so many positive things that I saw in there. So I did appreciate it. I did have a couple of concerns, so I'll see. But I thank you for your time and for helping me walk through some of those questions that I had for you. So thank you. And this was great. I'm so happy that we're at this point tonight to approve these, or at least not approve tonight, but approve it in a few weeks, this amount of curriculum, because I know we've had parents asking about new curriculum, especially for the math department. And then language, I'm glad we're getting the new language books too. So thank you for that.
Trustee Maestas?
Yeah, I just have one more thing. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a couple things, because I mentioned this at a few board meetings before. The quantitative reasoning and data analysis, data science class. I'm so excited about that. So more kids. And then the artificial intelligence. My son is likely to go to Enox, and he's really interested in those types of things. So that makes me kind of happy. So just wanted to make sure I pointed those two things out that are really, really cool things that are going around our district. So great job.
Thank you.
Seeing no more hands or lights, I just had one quick question. I noticed that most of these adoptions are 6 to 8 years. Are there any fees associated, like yearly? Are there extra fees associated with this adoption, or does this cover everything for 6 to 8 years?
That's a good question. So those that are listed as an 8 or 6 year adoption, obviously the physical textbooks, once we have them, we have them. That has to do with the digital access and the digital licensing. So those are the one-time cost. We pay that. We have that for the life of the adoption. There are those few books that I pointed out that have less than that for whatever reason, or the Read 180, that is a yearly software contract. But other than that, there is no other associated cost. It is a one-time cost.
Okay, that's great news. Thank you. Trustee Marks?
I'm sorry, that made me remember my other little comment was about the digital and the hard copy books, the physical books. Super happy. I know we had a board member that, there's a few of us on here, that we wanted to see both the digital and the hard copy because for some students they really needed the hard copy. So thank you. I'm so glad that so many of these had that. So that was awesome.
And this was a report only, so thank you so much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Rich, for that report. We are going on to B9, and this is approval of resolution number 2021-27, authorizing the insurance and sale of not to exceed $41,000 aggregate principal amount of general obligation bonds of Modesto City Elementary School District for Measure D health and safety improvements. Mr. Zierli, what? Oh, sorry, 41 million. Sorry. Mr. Zierli, please walk us through this one.
Good evening, President West, trustees. I'd like to begin by apologizing for the confusion with this item originally being put or planned to be put on consent and now being added to discussion. Last week, we were advised by our bond counsel that anytime we issue public debt, it requires at least the ability for public comment. So that's why you see it now on the discussion agenda. Our bond team is eager to come to a meeting and be here in person. Many of you have seen them before, and we anticipate that in the future. But for now, we have our dedicated team of experts online. Some of them are online on the Teams link, and they're here to answer any questions the board may have. All of our bond documents that are attached have been approved by our bond team for submittal. So they've been vetted, they've been edited, and so these are the actual documents that we will be submitting once the resolution is approved. We are recommending the board approve Resolution 2021-27, authorizing the issuance and sale of not to exceed $41 million of Measure D, Series B general obligation bonds. And with that, I'll answer any questions the board might have.
Thank you. So we will go to the public first. Ms. Chambers, do we have any comments from the public? Thank you. Ms. Noonan, do we have any public comments to be read on this topic?
No, we do not.
Okay, thank you. So do we have any questions or comments from the board on this topic? Trustee Brown?
It's exciting to see this and to know that we're ready to start spending that much money. So, Mr. Zierli, with the 41 million that would be issued with this measure, what total of that total bond fund is out? Is there much remaining?
Yeah, there'll be one more series remaining with this particular measure. Well, with both measures, we have the companion item next, but there'll be one more. There'll be one more issuance for that are going to get us. If you recall, on March 29th, our plan is to go through this particular phase of work. Will take us through the start of 24. That would be the last start date that summer for the 8 priority sites that have been identified by the board. So there will be one more issuance that will get us through the third phase of the work.
Good, thank you.
Seeing no more lights or hands, I'm looking for a motion to approve resolution number 2021-27. And that will be Trustee Brown moves, seconded by Trustee Mejia. All in favor Raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Moving on to item B10. This is the approval of resolution number 2021-28, authorizing the issuance and sale of not to exceed 20 million aggregate principal amount of general obligation bonds of Modesto City Elementary School District for Measure E, Classroom Science Lab Enhancements. Mr. Zierli?
Yes, thank you. This is a companion item to B9. As you know, we have two bond measures for the elementary school district. And again, we are recommending the board approve Resolution 2021-28, authorizing the issuance and sale of not to exceed $20 million of Measure E Series B general obligation bonds.
Thank you. Ms. Chambers, do we have any comments from the public on this item? Ms. Noonan, do we have any comments from the public on this item?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board on this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve resolution number 2021-28, and that would be Vice President Lopez, seconded by Trustee Mejia. And all in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. We're moving on now to the item we added, B11, and that is to discuss the items we pulled from consent, D4 and D5. And Trustee Marks, do you want to address the pulling of these items? And
Sure. I just pulled them so I could vote no. I voted no on D4. Last time because I was concerned about the U.S. Constitution and not having it as a requirement for graduation. So, as it has been for decades in our district. So that was why I pulled that, and then, or that's why I voted no last time. And then also on D5, which is the AR that goes with it. So, for the same reason.
thank you. So we are looking for a motion to approve items D4 and D5. Do we have Trustee Irvin? And it is seconded by Vice President.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes?
And just because I saw Ms. Newton come up to the front, does there need to be a formal discussion on it, or can we just go straight into the? No? Okay, perfect.
Okay. So we have a motion by Trustee Irvin, and it is seconded by Student Rep Carranza. And so all in favor of passing D4 and D5, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Trustee Marks, thank you so much. So the motion carries. And I'm looking now for any items to be placed on future Board of Education agendas. Trustee Brown?
Want to pose a question about the presentations that we got from the public tonight about proms. And I'm curious what action would need to be taken for that to happen.
So first, we can't discuss it because it's not agendized. I will be sending out a board communication tomorrow, and so I'll give you just the background and logistics, and then I will leave myself available on Wednesday for folks to be able to give me a call to answer any questions you might have. So once we get the information tomorrow, and then Wednesday, we can look through from multiple angles what prom looks like in a public school right now. There was guidelines put out for, on Friday from California, but it's titled prom, but it's not a prom. So let's take a look at what the guidelines show.
Thank you. Do we have other items to be placed on a future Board of Agenda? Seeing none, I am now looking for a motion to adjourn. And this is Trustee Maestas, and seconded by Trustee Mejia. All in favor, raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Meeting is adjourned.